Play. It goes without saying, but since the time she was born, Jessica was raised in this mansion. The Western-style house that the cousins simply called the mansion was her home. And yet, she had never understood her cousin's feelings as much as she did today. And at the same time, her own home, which she knew well, had never felt so different a place as it did now. Her own room. This had once been her personal hideaway, the only place in this vast mansion where she could feel at peace. However, that door had never felt as intimidating as it did now.
テストだって。一体何が待ち受けてやがるんだ。まさか私の机とか引っかき回してねえだろうな。
She acted tough, trying to deceive herself, trying to make herself believe that she wasn't scared of anything. She readied herself and opened the door to her room. Are we going to get the door opening effect? No. Oh. Alright. When she saw that, fortunately, the room didn't appear to have been messed with. She relaxed. I'm going to repeat this line. When she saw that, fortunately, the room didn't appear to have been messed with. She relaxed. No one was there. Of course. There was nowhere for anyone to hide here. Right away, Jessica locked the door behind her. Now the room was safe. She peeked under the bed and in the closet, but of course, no one was hiding.
なんだってんだ。
She looked at the clock. 10 past 11. Or just a little past that. Yep. It's 10 past 11. Alright. As her attention lessened and the fatigue came back to her entire body, she realized how messed up this whole day had been. It was still only 11. The plan had been for all the cousins to get together, have fun playing around, and talk animatedly about all kinds of things together into the night. Normally, we would have been doing that kind of thing at this very moment. Why has that turned into this?
全部あのクソジジイのせいだ。よくも母さんをみんなを。
Her head was swimming with anger and sadness. But there was no one here to direct those emotions at. Because of the lock, this room's security was guaranteed. Remembering that one more time, Jessica somehow regained her calm. If it keeps up like this, and nothing happens, Jessica thought that she would like to go to the dining hall and see her mother's last face. Even though Goda had emphasized so strongly that it was gruesome, and that she definitely shouldn't be looked at, she wanted to see her mother's face one final time. But they had been warned repeatedly that doing anything stupid would put the hostages in danger. Could it be that locking the door was also against the rules? If I close myself up in here, I alone might be saved. But if I don't open it, it will surely be against the rules, and Dad, Canon-kun, Shannon, Auntie Kyrie, and Dr. Nanjo will be killed. There's no way the scales balance between 5 lives and my own 1 life. Jessica tightly shut her eyes, resisting the other part of herself, which said, "Isn't it alright as long as I survive?" Headed to the door, and made to unlock it. Just then, suspicious scent. You know, maybe that's a bad idea when you have a sprained hand. I'm just gonna clap with my knee. Yeah, that was a bad idea. Crisp applause rang out, making Jessica's heart leap.
鍵をかけたままなら
Hello.
ルール違反ということになり、人質たちにも危害が及ぶかもしれません。
Oh, so she was right.
しかしそれでも自分の命だけは助かるかもしれない。しかしあなたはその誘惑に耐え、自ら鍵を開けようとした。そのあなたの勇気は称賛に値しますよ。
I, the owner of this room, had searched to make sure that there was nowhere any human could have been hiding. Where had this man... There was nowhere for a human to hide. But could something that wasn't human have managed it? I was pretty sure this was my first meeting with this largely built, middle-aged man. I did not recognize this guy, who looks like a butler and bore the seal of the winged eagle.
はじめまして、ジェシカ様。私は親方様より家具頭を任されております。72柱の27位、ロの上と申します。
ロの上。
Okay, that's on purpose. That's so on purpose.
ケンジさん。
I mean... Huh.
ああ、源氏は
Oh,
私
okay.
の弟のような存在。あるいはこの世界における私の正しい姿だったのかもしれません。
You know, I shouldn't be surprised by this. You know, I shouldn't be surprised by this, but I slightly am. Even though I shouldn't be surprised.
より白だったと言っても良いでしょうな。
Oh, okay. I don't understand what's going on here, but I probably should at this point. I mean, come on, the names are very similar. The names are very similar. And they're both head butlers, so... You know, I probably should have made connections between Ronove and Genji earlier. But I might save theories for the end of this video if I have any, but all I really have to say is I'm not that surprised that Ronove and Genji could somehow be correlated together. So I'm trying to think what kind of theory I can make out of that, because it's only really... I can only explain this with magic. Now, maybe I could explain this with psychological reasoning? Yeah, I'm just gonna wait on that because I can't think of any full theories right now, so I'm just gonna shut up and play the game.
何を言ってんだ。
Same.
おっと、これは失礼しました。人間には話しても理解できぬ話。それでは本題に移りましょう。
Oh?
クソジジイの言うテストとかいうやつだな。
さようでございます。こちらが親方様がジェシカ様に賜れましたテストでございます。
At Rodove's elegant gesture, like that of a butler ordering for the meal to be set out, many gold butterflies flew up out of nowhere. The swarm of gold butterflies spun around, forming a small swirl as they gathered in one place. Then, that golden mound disappeared like a pile of leaves blown away by a cold, wintry wind. And there lay a western envelope with the one-winged eagle crest done on it in gold leaf. Renove gestured to her to pick it up. Jessica timidly picked it up and opened the letter inside.
なんだこれ。
非常にシンプルな次期当主の資格を探るテストでございます。そこに記されている問いに、どうか後ろ宮家を担う次期当主としての心構えで臨んでいただき、答えとそれに至ったお考えをお聞かせください。
Utter hell. Shaking, Jessica looked back and forth between the paper and Renove's face several times. What's on the letter? No, you're not gonna cut away from her, are you? At that time, oh, okay. At that time, George, who had been called out after Jessica, could be seen in the arbor of the Rose Garden. He had been planning to give Shannon the ring that would be proof of their engagement, here, tonight, at this time, if things had gone normally. But the woman in front of George now was not Shannon.
読みなさい。
Gaap!
それがゴールドスミスからあなたに与えられるテストよ。
George picked up the western envelope on the table where he had once drunk tea with Shannon, and read its contents. Perhaps its message was short. After a single glance at it, George's eyes grew sharp.
なんだいこれは。
見ての通りよ。それがあなたに与えられる次期当主の資格を探るテスト。次期当主としての資格を自らに問いながら、その問いに答えなさい。
なんてバカな問題だ。
そうね。本当にバカな問題ね。なら、ゴールドスミスにとっての後ろ宮家の家督なんて、その程度のものなんじゃない？
George lowered his eyes to the surface of the letter once again and examined its contents. George and Jessica. While the tests given to them were slightly different, they were almost exactly the same.
以下に掲げる3つのうち2つを得るために1つを生贄に捧げよう。
簡単な3択じゃない？どれを見殺しに選ぶか自ら決めなさい。
I see. He's pitting the cousins against each other, isn't he?
選択を拒めばテストは中断。私の手であなたをこの場で殺してしまってもいいって許可をもらってるわ。それさえも選択肢に含めるなら4択ね。私、君みたいなこと遊ぶのはずいぶん久しぶりだから、それも嫌いじゃないわよ。
この3択はあくまでもテストなのか、それとも選択は結果を伴うのか。
何を甘えてるの？君が選択したものは必ず命を落とす。
He is so pitting the cousins against each other. He is so pitting them against each other. When in fact, he's just gonna kill them all. That's my prediction. No matter who they choose, they're still gonna die even after the one they choose. They're still gonna get killed. That's my thoughts. He's trying to pit them against each other, but at the same time, he's just gonna kill them anyway. I can feel that that's what Kinzo's gonna do. He's gonna kill them anyway. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. 1. Your life. 2. Shannon's life. 3. Everyone else's lives. Oh! Oh, shit! If you do not choose 1, all of the above will be lost. Oh, shit! Oh, shit!
どうしてシャノンの名がここにあるんだ
He's going after George specifically with that letter. Oh, I bet on Jessica's letter it's her life, Cannon's life, and everyone else's. He's going personal. Kinzo's going personal. Holy shit.
2番目の選択肢にはそのものが最も必要とする愛する者の名がジェシカへのテストの2番にはカノンって書かれているはずだわ
Shit! Kinzo's really going for the throat.
このバカな問題をジェシカにも出したのか
Hold on. What would be on Maria's card? Wait, to the letter of Maria, who would be on Maria's? Because Rose is dead already, so... Who would be on Maria's card? Balor? Like, okay, of all the characters, the only other character that Maria has a somewhat relationship to is Balor. Because of how she kind of looks up to him at points of the game. Though I might be wrong, but Balor's the only other character I can think of for Maria. Because Maria kind of looks up to Balor as like an older brother kind of figure, because he's like one of the very few of the characters that, you know, acts more childish with Maria, which works well with Maria because Maria is a child, and Balor is unintentionally good with kids. Though that's also a shaky theory in general. That's very shaky, but that's the only person I could really think of to be on Maria's letter because her mom is dead. Her mom's dead, and her relationship with her mom is not that great.
ジェシカのことなんかどうでもいいでしょ今試されているのはあなたよ実に簡単な3択だわ他の2つのためにどれを捨てられるかということよ簡単でしょそれでも決まらないならコインでも貸してあげようかしら
コイン2面しかないものでどうやって3択を
自分の命を捨てられる者がいるわけがないとなればおのずと残る選択肢は2つになる愛する者のために全ての人間を諦めるか一人でも多くを救うために愛する者一人を諦めるか
Oh, this is like the trolley equation. Yeah, the trolley equation. That's what Kinzo's doing to them right now. The trolley equation. Yeah, isn't that the trolley equation where there's two tracks a train could go on. One track has a bunch of people while the other track has a loved one. Yeah, that's the trolley equation with the additional, you could jump in front of the train and get hit by it to save everyone but you.
どっちにももっともらしい大義名分がつけられるわだって今やこの六軒島は悪魔の島ですもの人間の世界の甘ったるい馴れ合いなんて必要ないの誰も責めないわあなたの心の赴くままに後ろ宮家の家督を継ぐにふさわしい資格が自らにあるかを問いながらいいえ自らが後ろ宮家当主であると思って選択なさい
George is thinking about it. But I'm betting you George is not going to sacrifice anyone else but himself, I bet. Or he might sacrifice Shannon. Ah! Alright, I just have to keep... I cannot make theories as this is going on. I just have to see what happens. Oh, are we going back to Jessica? Yep.
何しやがって
Jessica crumpled the letter up and threw it on the floor.
お怒りはごもっともと思いますよ。私も非常にお気の毒で、それでいて実に滑稽な出題だと思います。
I see why Kinzo had the demons be the one who administered the test. I can see why Kinzo had the demons do it. Because demons are manipulating masterminds. Yeah, demons, they're really good at manipulating. So I can easily see why Kinzo chose them to be the ones to administer the test.
自分から死にたいと願う人間なんているもんか。そして愛する人の命を見捨てて生き残りたいと思う人間なんているもんか。そして自分たちだけ良ければ他の人間全てを見殺しにできる人間なんているもんか。
いいえ、ジェシカ様。
The candles dance.
いても良いのでございますよ。ここは六軒島、悪魔の島。今や人間の世界から完全に切り取られ、魔界にドッチーズフォンデュのように沈んでおります。人の世の価値観など次の燃えないゴミの日に出してしまいますとですからどうかジェシカ様が心より欲するものを順にお選びください。その結果残ったものがこの狂った今宵にふさわしきジェシカ様の回答となりましょう。
ふざけるな。こんなのどれも選べるものかよ。
いずれも選ばねば上記の全てを失うも立派な第四の選択肢でございますそれを選ばれるのもまた一興でございましょう。ただそれを選び結局自らの命を落とされるなら潔く一番の自分の命を選び他の二つを救われた方が賢明かと思います。全てはジェシカ様の選択に委ねられます。どうぞ後宮家の跡継ぎにふさわしい回答とその信念をお聞かせくださいませ。この炉の上親方様の血を引きし末裔にふさわしき素晴らしい回答を心より期待いたしております。
Oh man. Oh. That scene was being observed through a magic crystal ball being held by Kinzo. Okay. I mean, that is so like Kinzo to, you know, surveil people through that sort of method. That's so like him. Kinzo finally couldn't hold it back. Spreading his arms and facing the heavens, he began laughing in an explosive voice. Yeah, he's laughing.
何を迷うか愚かなる孫たちよ、我が末裔たちら。即答できる簡単な問題ではないか。朝のトーストにバターを塗るかジャムを塗るかより迷わぬ選択であるというのに。お前たちには正しい答えがわかるか？
He turned and stared wide-eyed at the Chiesta sisters, who had been faithfully standing in wait behind him. I'm gonna predict the answer that Kinzo would do. I'm gonna predict Kinzo's answer. Everyone. That's my prediction. Kinzo's answer to this question would be everyone. That's my prediction. I think that's the answer he wants.
愚か者め、選べもせぬとはな。ゲームオーバー。自らの生きる理由も目的も見出せん愚かなウサギめ。貴様など誰にも気づかれずに踏み潰されて生を終えるアリ一匹ほどの価値もないわ。
445. 45.
潰れろ。私が瞬きしている間に消えてなくなれ。お前はどうか。
私は一番の自分の命を生贄とするであります。
Wrong answer.
武具は戦い知ってこそであります。そして武具は敵を撃ち滅ぼし味方を守るためにある。愛する者たちを守って死ねるなら本望であります。
ほう、武具らしい実に見事な模範回答よ。即答、大いに結構。
Oh, alright.
そう答えれば人参が一本余計にもらえると教えられてきたのか。違うよな。それすらも違うよな。そう聞かれたらそう答えようとお前はただ吹き込まれた通りに答えたに過ぎない。お前も今のウサギと同じだ。自分の生きる理由と目的を未だに見出せずに生きている生きる価値なきクズめ。貴様など潰されて他の家畜の餌にでもなるのがお似合いよ。
家畜の餌光栄であります。
No! Don't say yes to that!
違うだろう。もう誰も死ぬところを見たくないんだろう。それがなぜ認められぬのか。認めろよ。お前の古傷の奥の奥が未だに産んで腐っていることを。不臭にて鼻が曲がりそうであるわ。愚かなる腐れウサギめ。お前にはこれが褒め言葉である。
ありがとうございますであります。
You know, I always have to root for the furniture. I always have to root for the furniture. And I'm especially rooting for the Chiesters. I'm especially rooting for them because Kinzo's an ass. He is an ass. Though, okay, Kinzo has one thing going for him. He has charm for being such a cartoonishly evil villain. Like, the amount of evil within Kinzo is so cartoonish. Like, he's so bad that you keep on forgetting that, oh yeah, this guy used to be one of the human characters. I'm still saying used to be because I don't think he's alive still. Like, I'm still refusing to say that he's been alive this whole time. But either way, the way he's acting like a villain right now is just like a cartoon character. Always abusive towards everyone but himself and makes up all these elaborate plans with no concern for others. He's such a cartoon villain. So he has some charm despite being a complete ass and being so much of a bad guy that you at least have to respect that he's, you know, sticking to being just the worst asshole. But of course, maybe we might see some more sides to Kinzo like we had been in the past episodes, because in the past episodes, I do agree, there has been some moments of slight humanity within Kinzo. Selfish humanity, but still humanity at the same time. But in this episode so far, we're just seeing the cartoon villain side of him. And yeah, Kinzo, I'm gonna say this now, he's practically a cartoon villain.
さて、最後のお前はどうか。この3択から何を選ぶ？
にひ、迷うことなく当然2番であります。
That's also the wrong answer, I bet.
おお、2番か。愛する者を生贄に捧げることを胸を張って選べる者は多くない。訳を聞かせよ。
愛する者はいつかいなくなるからです。愛する者がいなければ傷つかないし、いなくてもいつかまた誰かを愛せるかもしれない。
I mean, 410 is making a point, no matter how gruesome it is of me to say this. She is making a point, though I think that's the wrong answer.
だから今愛してるものなんて大した価値はないのですに。
Okay, maybe I should clarify a few things real quick. Hold on, yeah, what I said right there was kind of bad. Hold on. What I meant by was, what she's saying definitely does make sense. Though, of course, I'm not advocating for the murder of your loved ones. No, I am not advocating for that. I should probably make that clear. I can understand her point, but personally, I might not choose that one. Though, it might be a possibility as well, at the same time. Honestly, if I ever had this decision, yeah, I would be like George and Jessica. I would actually sit down and think about it, because, let's be honest here, an instant answer of any of those three just sucks. So, yeah. 410, I can at least, give some applause to her for making an answer, but also I have to applaud, Double O's answer as well, because that's a great answer. But at the same time, both of these answers, you can see many flaws in both of these answers, but you could also understand them. Yeah, that's the clarification I wanted to make real quick, because what I said right there might have been slightly alarming, so I wanted to, clear some things up real quick so that, what I'm saying here does not get misinterpreted. Anyways, let's get back to see more of 410's reasonings behind why she chose number 2.
なるほど。それでそういう回答になるわけか。愛に傷ついたがゆえに臆病になったウサギよ。ウサギは寂しさで死ぬと聞いたが、お前の心は一体いつ殺されたというのか。ならばウサギよ、問いを変えよう。2番の選択肢を愛するものではなく、そなたが愛したものの思い出に変えようではないか。どうかこれでももう一度選べるか。何が愛してるものに大した価値はないだ、愚かなウサギよ。自らの愛の深さにも向かい合えぬクズめ。選んでみよ。愛したものを忘れられると選んでみや。選べるだろう。選べるものな。ほら、選べるって言ってみろよ。
選べるであります。
Oh no. Poor 4110. Oh.
選べるであります。
ゴールドスミス卿、それくらいでどうかお許しを。
もうよいわ、クズウサギどもめ。お前たちはワルギリアのところへ行き、地下牢の見張りを手伝うのだ。消えよ。
The Chiesa sisters, their old, emotional wounds gouged, disappeared as though running away. After that, even though there was no one left to hear him, Kinzo continued talking, as though continuing a play.
と、このように愉快なテストなわけだ。実のところを言えば、こ これが正解という選択肢はない。むしろどの答えであろうともよどみなく素早く、そして確固たる信念と揺るがぬ強き自らの意志で選べるかどうか、その理由と意志の方が重要なのだ。私はそれを知りたいのだよ。ああ、我が末裔たちよ、お前たちはどのような答えを見せてくれるのか実に楽しみだ。
He just can't wait to rip them apart, isn't he? He just can't wait to rip them apart.
私かああ、もちろん同じ問いを突きつけられたことがあったとも。その悪魔の問いに見事答えたからこそ、私は黄金と名誉とあの魔女を我が物とすることができたのだよ。
I knew he would choose to answer everyone else. I knew he would choose that one. I knew he would choose that one.
私が選んだ答えはどれか言うまでもないよな。
Jeez. And we're to Jessica.
さて、そろそろ答えは決まりましたでしょうか。
As Jessica stared at the crushed letter which lay on the floor, she hung her head in constant silence. All that filled the room was the sound of the wind and the rain, and the rustling of treetops. Regardless of how noisy that was, it simply made the silence more apparent. Renove waited for Jessica's answer. However, Jessica didn't speak. Whether she was deep in thought or had stopped thinking, Renove couldn't tell. No, he might have actually have known. But cruelly, like a demon, Renove urged Jessica to voice it.
どれも選べないというなら、そのお命、せめて痛みがないよう安らかに頂戴させていただきますが、さて。
せよ。
はい、聞こえかねました。もう一度お願いできますかな。
Jessica lifted her face and looked straight into Renove's eyes. It seemed that she had decided on her answer.
殺せよ。
Moo. Not surprised. You know, I'm kind of not surprised that she chose this option. Jessica said it one more time, clearly. Perhaps Renove had imagined from the very beginning that this would be the answer. Without any surprise, he smiled lightly and nodded.
ジェシカ様ならそのお答えを選ぶと思っておりました。さて、このテストはどの選択肢が正解不正解というものではありません。重要なのはどのような考えを経てその答えに至ったかという部分です。
Well, okay, this actually makes a lot of sense for Jessica's character that she chose herself. Like, this makes a lot of sense for her character. So, let's see her reasoning. Like, I think I can already understand her reasonings as to why she would choose herself, but yeah, I want to know from her words. Like, I'm not going to say her words for her. I'm going to let her speak.
さあ、ジェシカ様の、そして次期当主としての心構えを持って、それをお答えください。
別に死にたくて1番目を選んだわけじゃないぞ。2番のカノン君を死なせること、こんなのもちろん論外だから除外。3番のその他みんなの命、こんなのももちろん論外。 だから除外。そしたら1番目の選択肢しか残らなかった。
That's actually good reasoning. That's good reasoning. Even though I'm not going to reveal my answer to this, I can highly respect, choosing number one. Personally, okay, I want to say that I would choose number one myself, but thing is, I would sit down and think about it. That's the thing. That's the thing. I'm not going to say my full answer because I truly do not know. Like, I hope that, I would hope that I would think number one's the best choice, but at the same time, like every human possible, I'll have to sit down and think about it. I will have to sit down and think about it because, yeah, number one means you die. So, yeah. Like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest here. For me, it's either number one or number three. I'm more likely to choose number one, though. Don't get me wrong, I'm more likely to choose number one, but 3 is a lingering one in my head. 2 is the option I would least likely choose myself. Oh, actually, Jessica's still in the middle of explaining, so I should not be saying my answer right now, sorry, oops.
消去法ですか。積極的にお選びになったわけではないと。
After chuckling slightly, Ronove dropped his gaze. A human couldn't even imagine what kind of answer a demon would have been hoping for. All she could understand was that this was apparently slightly below Renove's expectations.
悪くはありませんが、良くもない回答です。60点というところでしょうか。
Out of 100?
少し失望しましたよ。
He just gave her a D-.
自信を持って選べみたいなこと言っておいて、そうしてやったら失望とは自分勝手な野郎だぜ。
消去法というだけではないようですね。いずれにせよ落第点ですが、もう少しお考えがあるようだ。伺いましょう。
死にたくないさ。だから1番なんて誰だって選びたくない。人は幸せに生きたくて生の限りをあがいてるんだぜ。だから本当はまず1番目なんてありえないはずなんだ。
しかしあなたは1番目の選択肢、自分の命を捨てることを選んだ。その選択肢しか残らなかった。
一応それぞれの選択肢を選んだ後の未来のことを考えてみたぜ。
ほう、いかがでしたか。
まずカノン君を死なせてみた。私は自分の大好きな人を見捨ててまで生きる残りの生涯を想像してみた。
I'm gonna say something that might be slightly bad, so yell at me in the comments, but if someone does choose option number 2, more than likely, the person who was chosen for number 2 would not blame the other person. Like, yes, they were killed by them, but a lot of the time, when people are truly in love, if they are sacrificed by the other, part of the time they would actually not be super mad. They will be disappointed that you didn't choose yourself, but at the same time, I feel like those who are chosen for option 2 are more likely to forgive. Sorry, I just want to say that thought right now. Like, this question is actually a question that I'm actually thinking in my own head, so yeah. I am definitely interrupting Jessica, for which I feel super bad for. But I'm probably going to do the same to George anyway, so... No, I should not interrupt them, I'm sorry. But this is actually a really interesting question. And you don't have to answer this question down in the comments below. Like, I'm not trying to pressure anyone to answer this hard question. Like, even me myself, I'm still thinking of my own answer throughout this video, and I might not even come to a full answer. I'm just, exploring possibilities, and yeah, this question overall is a really good question hypothetically, but also the thoughts of actually getting it breaks all the hypothetical, thoughts you have. Like, that's one thing I'm gonna point out. I would not blame anyone for any option that they choose. I wouldn't get mad, I wouldn't get disappointed, I would just try to understand their decision. Within these three options, if you choose either one, I'm not gonna judge. That's my honest opinion about this question. I will not judge anyone for their answer. Because, having understanding as to why they chose what they chose is probably the most important part of this question of Kinzo's. It's not whether or not they're choosing something right or wrong. It's their conviction. So this is actually a really good question, even though the person who's asking is a pretty fucked up person. So yeah, this is a really good question.
それはどんな生涯でしたか？
生きるにも値しない最低の女だった。いつまでも自らの選択を悔やみ、ただ後悔だけのために生きるみすぼらしい女だった。大好きな人を見捨てて生きることを選んだ最低の女なんて私には許せない。私が自ら引導を渡してやる。
勇ましい。では3番目の選択肢も考えられたのでは？
ああ、私とカノン君以外の全員を死なせても見た。カノン君はそんな私を好きになるはずはない。そして私もまた、いくらカノン君がいても、そのために見捨てた大勢の命が生涯十字架となってのしかかってきた。そしてその十字架はカノン君にまでのしかかった。私はカノン君に十字架を背負わせるために愚かな選択肢を選んだりはしない。もしそんなことをする私がいたなら、私はその未来の私を許さない。その女にも私が引導を渡してやる。
Jessica had pictured it in her mind. The future her, beyond each of the three choices. There were 3 Jessicas. Of the 3, 2 had regrets. Only one could hold her head high and smile at Canon.
私さ、生意気にもカノン君に説教したことがあるぜ。自分の人生を思い切り生きてみろみたいなこと。
Episode 2!
自分の人生を思い切り生きる。味わいある言葉ですね。それは意外にとても難しいものです。
だからさ、私が胸を張ってカノン君に見せなきゃならないんだよ。胸を張ってお天道様を真正面から見て、思い切り笑顔でいられる生き方ってやつを。
あなたの自己犠牲をカノンは受け入れられるでしょうか。あなたの身勝手な選択が余計に彼を傷つけてしまうことには思いが至りませんか。
だから伝言を頼みたい。
ほう、お聞きはしますが、何しろ私は悪魔です。約束は守らないかもしれませんよ。
守って。約束。
Jessica spoke. Jessica spoke that, looking quite unconcerned. She had asked the demon, who was about to take her life, to pass on a message, and she wasn't thinking for a moment that she would be betrayed. At that extremely innocent smile, Renove closed his eyes lightly and shrugged his shoulders.
いいでしょう。それで彼に何と伝えればよろしいですか。
They're gonna cut away to George, aren't they?
カノン君の思いっきりの人生を。
Oh shit! Are they listening in? Are they listening in to the decisions? Oh shit! I did not realize that they were listening in. Wow, that would have been bad if she chose number 3 as they were all listening. Oh my god! I did not realize they were listening in. Oh fuck. Oh my god.
ちょっと違う。カノン君のじゃない。本当の名前は未だに教えてもらえないけど、本当のカノン君の人生を思いっきり生きて、そう伝えて。
お嬢様。
ジェシカ、お前というやつを。
炉の上は気まぐれですから、伝言をしなかった可能性もありました。
Wait, did Virgilia do this?
幸運でしたね。私がこの光景を見せていて。
You know what? I have to give small claps to Virgilia. A musty, 3-sided mirror was set beyond the bars, and the scene with Jessica was reflected on it. On the next mirror, the scene with George was reflected in the same way. None of them questioned how a 3-sided mirror had appeared from a group of butterflies, or why Jessica and George were reflected on it, because the reflected sights themselves were more important.
そこまでこいつのために命をも投げ出せるというのか。
申し訳ありません。
Klaus looked at Cannon with a complicated expression that had an awkward smile mixed in. Cannon couldn't beat his eyes.
ワルギリア様、お嬢様が命を落とされることはありません。僕を殺してください。2番目の選択肢に変えてください。それで全ては丸く収まるはずです。その願いを私に叶えることはできませんよ。これはジェシカの選んだ自らの選択なのですから。
Suddenly, the air split, and the Chester sisters appeared, flying into Virgilia's chest. Are we gonna get a furniture immunity? Oh, okay. That would be awesome if we get a furniture immunity. Still, without a clue what was going on, Virgilia was smothered by the sobbing Chester sisters.
はいはい、大丈夫ですよ、大丈夫ですよ。泣かないで、泣かないで。おいしいお紅茶を入れてあげますからね。お前たち、ここの見張りを任せます。不審な真似をしたらすぐに知らせるのですよ。
The goat attendants all looked at each other and nodded their heads. Virgilia took the Chester sisters and left. The sound of people going up a set of stairs could be heard, so they had probably gone to an upper floor. And the goats watched.
チャンスだわ。このヤギ頭どもは頭が悪いみたい。うまく騙せないかしら。
Kyrie realized that an opportunity had arrived, but she still hadn't thought of a way to break the metal bars. The Jessica reflected on the three-sided mirror closed her eyes, as though she had given up. The way she had both hands stuck into her pockets, wanting to be defiant until the very end, might have been her own kind of aesthetics.
私の言い分は以上だ。殺せよ。
わかりました。それではご安心を。あなたへの死はどんな眠りよりも優しく慈悲深いものにいたします。
Is he gonna pull a Genji? Is he gonna Thanos snapper? Ronove raised his palm as he slowly approached Jessica. Realizing that his daughter would be killed, Klaus repeatedly body slammed the metal bars, going half mad. The goats looked like they were sneering at how a mere human didn't stand a chance at breaking those bars. And true, Klaus's pointless effort might have been comical, but Klaus was giving it everything he had. As Jessica's father, he was living in that moment with everything he had, so that he could save her. Oh man, I'm tearing up right now. God damn it, I'm actually tearing up by Klaus's reaction. Cannon made tight fists with both hands. If he used this cursed power, he might be able to cut through even metal bars. But there were a full 3 goats. There was no way he could defeat 3 of them in an instant. It would instantly be reported, and then Virgilia and even the Chester sisters would dash in. Though he may be able to break the bars, he could do nothing more. It was useless. Cannon knew already that the witch was sneering at that kind of useless effort. So he could do nothing but stare at Klaus's repeated body slams. Oh yeah, what's George's decision? Shannon, who had been looking at the 3-sided mirror, let out a voice. They looked to see that George, who had been silent this whole time, had raised his head. It seemed that George had also decided on an answer. He's gonna say himself.
決まった？君の答え。
ああ、決まったよ。
それは揺るぎない答え？
ああ、揺るぎないね。
なら聞かせてもらうわ。ああ、ちなみにジェシカはどうも自分の命を差し出すことを選んだようよ。まさか優柔不断な君も同じ答えを選んだっていうんじゃないでしょうね。
ジェシカはジェシカの答えを出したのさ。それがどの選択であろうとも、それはジェシカの答えだ。僕の答えに何も干渉しないよ。
そうなら改めて聞くわ。以下に掲げる3つのうち2つを得るために1つを生贄に捧げよ。1、自分の命。2、シャノンの命。3、それ以外の全員の命。あなたが選んだのはどれ？まさかジェシカと同じ1番？
I'll just... yeah. Just do the knuckle punishment of putting a cap on the knuckle and twisting it. I can't do slaps anymore. I can't do slaps because of my hand.
違うね。
What? Wait. What? Gaap looked a little surprised, because she had thought that a timid-looking man like this would never choose any other option.
ならよかったわ。 私にとって一番退屈な選択肢が外れてくれてよかった。じゃあまさかとは思うけど2番シャノンの命を見捨ててみせる？
Okay, quick prediction. If he's not choosing 1, I think it's going to be 2. I think it's going to be 2. Let's see how George words his reasonings behind that. I think he's chose number 2.
まさか今夜まさに婚約指輪を贈ろうという相手をどうして僕が
Wait, he chose 3? Okay. What?
これは大胆だわ。それが君の答えなの？
そうさ。僕の答えは3番さ。
Okay, you know what? I am shocked by George's answer. I would think he was going to do something like number 1, like Jessica did. Or number 2, with some reasonings. But he chose 3? Okay, wow. You know, actually, why did George choose number 3? I'm actually curious. Like, oh, that's actually interesting. Rose. George had chosen the 3rd choice. Oh my god, so he's the most like his grandfather then. Alright. Why did you choose number 3? Everyone else's lives. Even Gaap hadn't been able to imagine that answer. She had been sure that he'd choose number 1, just like Jessica. So she became interested in how he had reached that answer. How had he reached an answer that had defied the imagination of the 33rd ranked demon of the 72?
聞かせてほしいわ。
Damn, when you make a demon sweat, when you make even a demon sweat, you know you chose an answer. You know you chose a bold answer when you make a demon sweat.
自分と愛する婚約者だけが無事で、それ以外の全てを犠牲にできる境地というのを聞かせてほしいわ。あなたもジェシカと同じで消去法というやつ？
違うね。はっきりこれしか僕には選択肢がないのさ。
自分さえ良ければいいと？
What? I'm alright, Jack. Is that a quote for something? Wait, I need to look this up. Is that a quote? Okay, so apparently I'm alright, Jack is a 1959 British comedy film. And it's mainly about, upper-class but employable Stanley Windrush, Ian Carmichael, is offered an unskilled job on the floor of a missile factory owned by the unscrupulous Uncle Bertram, Dennis Price. When the personnel manager, Major Hitchcock, Terry Thomas, discovers how much more quickly Windrush can complete his tasks than the other workers, Union Steward Fred Kite, Peter Sellers, calls a strike to keep his men from having their wages cut. The unexpected results cause nothing but trouble for all concerned. Huh. So, I'm alright, Jack is a line that references 1959 British comedy? I don't think that's correct, but it might be. It might be correct. I don't know. Explain your reference, Gaap.
愛する女と引き換えに世界を犠牲にできると？
Oh, wait, that might be a spoiler. Well, okay, the movie's from 1959. No one's gonna watch it. Well, I might watch it. You know, I might watch it now since they mentioned it. But you know what? If it's a spoiler for an old movie, well, at that point, most people already know what happened, so yeah. Sorry for spoiling, it's alright, Jack. I'm alright, Jack. So yeah, interesting. Or if this is a spoiler at all, I don't know what happens in the movie.
君は何を言っているんだい？
何？
George faced the demon as he spoke, looking at her, almost in disbelief.
僕は今夜ここにシャノンを呼び出し、婚約の証である指輪を渡すつもりだった。僕とシャノンの婚約を祝福しない者もきっと多いだろう。
Oh.
僕は彼女との婚約を宣言することで親族すべてを敵に回すと覚悟していた。僕にはあるんだよ。この島に訪れたその時から。いや違う、彼女に婚約したいと打ち明けたその時からね。
結婚さえできれば他の何もかも犠牲にできると？
結婚とは自分は生涯妻の味方であり続けるということだ。僕にはその時点で彼女のために世界の全てを敵に回す覚悟があるんだ。
That is the ultimate simp logic. That is the ultimate simp logic. So, yeah, that explains why George would choose that answer, but that's like the ultimate simp logic. Sorry that I'm using simp as a joke for George right now, but he would kill his entire family for someone. That's not exactly that romantic to me, but you do you, George. You do you, man. It's like, yeah, I can see how one could get to that conclusion. I can see how you could get to that conclusion, but I can't say I understand your conclusion or respect it. But okay, I am judging you. I was about to say I don't judge you, but no, I am kind of judging you. The fuck's this logic? He would kill his entire family. Well, I guess that's how love works for George, so yeah, I don't agree with it, but you can see how some people might. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest here. I think Jessica's reasoning is a lot more respectable than you, George. Like, maybe it's that I don't understand romance, or I have a different view of romance than George does, but I don't know whether or not I would appreciate, okay, if I was in Shannon's position, I don't think I would appreciate my partner killing everyone because they're simping for me. That's kind of weird, man, but that's just me personally. If I was in Shannon's position, I would not really find that to be, a nice thing that my partner would do. Yeah, I can't say that I agree with George here. I can't say I can agree with George here. Though, at the very least, he is confident with his answer. Like, that's one thing that makes this a little bit chilling. He is confident in saying he would kill his entire family because of his simping. Okay, I should not be using the term simping because, yeah, I should not be using that term so freely in regards to George, since there's a lot more complexities than just calling him a simp. But he pretty much is a simp for Shannon. So that is an accurate word, even though it's not, the best word to describe George. It's an accurate word to describe him. He's a simp. Those words, through the three-sided mirror, also reached Shannon's ears. And his determination reached her eyes. Shannon certainly had arranged with George that night. She would be given an engagement ring. I'm gonna repeat that, I'm sorry. Shannon certainly had arranged with George that night. She would be given an engagement ring. Then this incident had occurred, and she hadn't been able to receive the ring. But now, even though it wasn't in the form of a ring, Shannon had received something even greater. And as proof of that, a single tear with the same sparkle as a diamond dripped down. Okay, so she thinks that's kind of touching. I can't judge that, but I am going to judge it a little bit. I say I can't judge, but alright. Well now, I am judging slightly, but I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at them. I will criticize, but I'm not mad. And I'm not disappointed either. I'm just critical of both of their decisions. I'm critical of it because I personally don't agree, but I can, understand their decisions.
それは何ともふるった答えだことね。なるほど。よく考えたら君にこれは気楽な選択肢だわ。
Like, congrats to George for just flat out saying that. Like, congrats to him for saying something so brave and yet so controversial.
だって君の両親は第一の晩にすでに殺されちゃってるんだもんね。今さら君にとって死んで困る人間は誰もいない。なるほどね。これは簡単な選択だったわ。
何とでも言うがいい。これが僕の、そして僕の次期当主としての覚悟と選択だ。
I mean, I can definitely see a lot of parallels between George and Kinzo. Like, this is just another parallel that these two characters have. Especially with George's statement in the first game where he said that he would be willing to throw away everything and go into the cult if he could have the chance of reviving Shannon one more time. That is very like Kinzo. So, this answer really does make sense for George when you remember that. George is the most like Kinzo. In my opinion, of anyone in the family, he's the most like Kinzo when you think about it. The sparkle in George's eyes was brilliant and sharp. For just an instant, Gaap felt the same sense of intimidation that Kinzo exuded, and was slightly overpowered.
なるほど。ゴールドスミスと同じ答えというわけ。君もあどけなさそうな顔して将来はとんだ悪魔になるわけね。なんだ、私たちとてもうまくやれそうじゃない。君がゴールドスミスの後を継ぐ。そしてやがては私は召喚され君に仕えることもあるかもしれない。それも案外面白いかもしれないわね。
Gaap needed to change her opinion of George. This man bore a determination and resolve unimaginable from his outward appearance, and had not adopted that just now, but had possessed it since the very beginning.
僕には今すぐ当主を継承する覚悟がある。いや違うね。君はこのテストを当主として考えろと言った。だから僕は自分が当主であると前提して答えたんだ。いやそれすら違う。当主そのものとして考えた。僕は今後宮家の当主なんだ。
Damn. Even though I do not agree with George, a lot of the things that he does is slightly cool. Even though I do not agree with him at all. Some of his stuff I don't agree with, but I can at least have some, slight respect for George for being honest with himself. Kind of in a sense that I kind of, can have respect for, Kinzo's honesty. I can kind of respect George's honesty, even though I definitely do not agree with either two of them. Let me paraphrase this. I do not agree with the two of them, but I can respect them enough for their own decisions, despite how I heavily criticize and disagree with them. And since they're fictional characters, I'm more inclined to respect them. Did I just say that?
見事だわ。そこまで言えるなんてね。君はどうやら かなりの大物だわ。バトラとマリアのテストはまだだけど、私は君が合格でいい気がする。
Yeah, I still do not know how Maria would answer. That's my biggest question. I still do not know how Maria would answer.
でもその答えがかけねなしの本当のものならね。
僕の覚悟を疑うというのか。
君が選んだ選択肢を実行できる？今すぐ自らの手でこの島に存在する全ての命を生贄に捧げることができる？自らの手でよ。
できるね。
I can't tell if that's a face of indecisiveness or not.
その覚悟はあると僕は何度も言っている。
Is that a face of indecisiveness or is he actually serious? I can't tell actually. He could be. I think his foundation's shaking now. I think his resolve's shaking now with Gaap's statement of him doing it himself. Or he might be getting angry that she keeps on questioning him.
ならば今すぐゲストハウスに戻る。バトラとマリアを殺しなさい。それが終わったら他の人質たちも連れてきてあげる。君の手でシャノン以外の全員をその目の前で処刑してみせるのよ。できるんでしょ？
できるね。僕の覚悟は君程度のそれとはレベルが違う。
ならば実行しなさい。全てに死を。新しき後宮家の当主としてこの血塗られた儀式の遂行を。
了解したよ。
Happiness of Marionette. Bonus. Oh shit!
実行する。僕は今やもう後宮家の当主だ。
ええ、そうよ。自らの手でその玉座を赤く染めなさい。君は悪魔たちを滑る魔界の王となる。
Gaap was now sure. This man was truly fitting to succeed Kinzo's madness. What's Kinzo's thoughts?
吹けよ嵐、鳴らせよ雷鳴。新しき魔王の誕生を祝うがいい。悪魔の島は今新しい王を迎えた。
In response to the demon's call, the tempest raged more and more. Then a massive lightning bolt fell, its tearing thunder and brilliant light creating the feeling of just a moment of silence. Fuck! Holy crap.
その殺害の順番だけど僕が決めていいわけだよね。
どうぞご自由に。新しき六軒島の魔王陛下、あなたの御心の赴くままに。
とりあえずさ、その一番目が君になるわけだけどいいかな。
Oh, wait! I actually thought he was gonna go ahead and kill everyone in the guest house, but hold on. Hold on. Oh my god. George, did I just get duped? Did you just dupe me? Well, he was definitely being honest. Like, he was definitely being honest, but at the same time, his honesty had allowed him to dupe Gaap, I think. Oh my god, I think he just duped everyone. With being too brutally honest, he duped everyone. Oh my god. Fuck. I actually thought he was just gonna go ahead and start killing everyone. Oh my god. Alright. This is a turn of events I was not expecting. Answer. Oh my god. A gust of wind blew, stirring up George's jacket, as though it was a cloak. Whoa! Did he move the clouds? It's no longer raining. It was very much like the cloak worn by the head. It definitely gave the same impression of grandeur. At that time, Gaap certainly saw the storm wiped away, and the sky was covered with a pure white and vast full moon. Bearing the full moon on his back, the man who called himself the new head sneered at the demon.
後ろ宮家親族の全ての命さえも今や僕の財産だ。それに損害を出してくれた賠償、安くは済まないよ。まさか僕の両親に夏日おばさん、ルドルフおじさん、ローザおばさん、そして源氏さんの命を奪っておいて、この僕が見逃すと本気で思ってるのかい？
はは生意気よ。
Damn! Wait. Jessica's gonna fight back! Jessica's gonna fight back, isn't she? Renove had been intending to press his palm against Jessica's chest and stop her heart. But a short distance away, his hand had stopped. On the carpet at their feet, plop, plop, small red flowers bloomed, one after another. The seeds of those flowers had fallen down from high, high above, all the way from Jessica's fists, held up as though to strike the heavens. Open fire. She hit Renove in the face! Renove's nose was stained red with spurting blood. Oh my god, fight scene! And those drops were dripping onto the carpet! Oh my god, it's a fight scene!
さっきのは乙女としての回答な。次期当主としての回答は別だぜ。
Oh my god! I was definitely duped by both of them! Oh my god! Hell fucking yeah! Let's do this! Let's fight them!
お伺いします。
大好きな人も家族も親族もみんな
Oh my god.
私が守る。
Hell yeah!
私が当主ならそれは私の責務だ。お父さんは威張ってるだけじゃない。私は母さんを守ってた。後ろ宮家を受け継ぐ重圧ってやつと何十年も戦ってた。だからわかるぜ。次期当主ってのはな。だからさ、捨てられるんだよ。自分の命くらい簡単にかけられちまうんだよ。
You know what? Jessica! I think I'm gonna root for Jessica for the headship more than George, in my opinion. Like, George would be a fitting head after Kinzo, but Jessica would be an awesome person to lead the family, even though she partially doesn't, but she also does. Well, okay, that's a complicated question. But Jessica would be a good head. That is a complicated question on whether or not Jessica wants to be the head, but at the same time, she is growing to be an amazing head. Jessica knew. She knew that her father, in order to protect his family, was even now bluffing and fighting a solitary fight. Jessica understood something that his back had been telling her. Another left strike was buried to Renove's face. That mighty strike wasn't due just to the brass knuckles she was using. Oh! It was a strike of a person, a family head, who could throw away everything in order to protect.
父さんが次期当主の資格を失ったなら、順当に次の当主は私が継承するぜ。後ろ宮家当主、後ろ宮ジェシカ。
Yes!
これ以上好きにさせるほどふぬけちゃいねえぜ。
素晴らしい回答です。先ほどの点数を改めましょう。 その回答に10点プラス
70?
見事な左ストレートに10点プラス
She has a B!
ってことはあと20点プラスで100点満点だな。
Royal V backflipped away from her and finally wiped away the blood pouring from his nose. It had become not blood, but petals of a red rose. The blood on his face was wiped off, and in its place was a grin from a great delight, which he had last felt so many centuries ago that he could no longer remember just how long it had been. It had been.
ジェシカ様の覚悟満点に値するかどうかこの世の上試させていただきますよ。
うぜえぜかかってきやがれ。おいで奈落へ。
Death from stupefaction. Beneath George's feet, a pitch-black pit suddenly opened its mouth wide. Of course, George had no way of resisting. After being swallowed up by it, George fell out of a pitch-black hole that had been opened up in the ceiling of the arbor. Ooh. As George fell down, he was kicked sharply in the gut, like a precision B strike by a reverse roundhouse kick from a stiletto heel. Launched out of the arbor, the instant George thought he was about to be swallowed up by a rose bush. Another pitch-black hole opened there and swallowed George up. And this time, a pitch-black hole opened in front of Gaap at her feet, spitting a defenseless George out of it. By that time, Gaap had already finished preparatory motions for the next reverse roundhouse kick. Ooh. He's kind of getting his ass kicked. Right side of the head. Below the right armpit. Side of the right knee. As Gaap danced and spun like a small cyclone. She kept hitting him. Right foot, left foot, left foot, with successive roundhouse kicks. The fourth one became a sweep, cutting George's feet out from under him and making him fall down. But of course, there was no floor there, but a pitch-black hole, and George was swallowed up once again. Gaap once again spun around like a small cyclone. George, likewise, was once again spat out from the ceiling of the arbor.
食らって噛み締めなさい。奈落の終点が一撃。死ね。
George didn't even have a chance, but is that really the end of George? Let's be honest here. Is that really the end of George? I don't think so. The sharp strike of the Queen Bee pierced the heavens like a rising cyclone. It kicked through George's abdomen as he fell from the ceiling. And then, time froze. George was pinned in midair by Gaap's raised leg. Still pinned in midair, George moaned. Then Gaap, with George still hung up on her foot, grinned.
認めてあげるわ。君の態度だけは一人前よ。でも力が伴わなきゃダメだわ。知ってる？この世を滑るには3つの力が必要だそうよ。一つは権力、一つは財力、最後は何か知ってる？
本で読んだよ。暴力だろ。
正解。君にはそれが足りないわ。
Gaap finally released George by kicking him upwards one more time, adding in another roundhouse kick and smashing him into a pillar. I mean, George was at an unfair disadvantage. She has teleportation powers.
権力を伴わない王者にも財力を伴わない王者にもそして暴力を伴わない王者にも人は誰も恐れない。金蔵はその3つを兼ね備えたわ。だからこそ暴君として君臨した。君も金蔵の後継者を名乗るならばその貫禄を見せてごらんなさい。ほら、いつまで寝ているの？
Yeah, you could hold your hand like that. Okay. For some reason, I didn't think that was natural, but no, that's... Wait. Yeah, that's natural.
立ちなさい。じゃないとまた落ちるわよ。
Mortal Stampede.
悪くない動きですよ。しかしレディには少々ふさわしくないかと存じます。
いやー、ひょろひょろとちょっこまかと反撃してこねえのかよ。なめてんのか。うぜえやつ。
Ronove was dodging skillfully, jumping back, and avoiding Jessica's fist. But he still wasn't striking back himself. Because of his agile movements, as swift as a flag whipping around in strong winds, Jessica's fist wasn't even able to touch him. Amidst the feeling of her blood running hot, Jessica regained her offensive composure. Even though this room was large for a bedroom, it was too small an area to keep up such exaggerated dodges for long. She calmly realized that, and started using not just her fists, but her legs as well.
ほう、ボクシングは腕でやるだけのうちは半人前です。腕は熱く吠えたける獅子のように、そして足は冷たく獲物を狙って追い詰める蛇のように。
蛇に足はねえぜ。
確かに。
Jessica began cornering Ronove towards the wall with perfect footwork. She wouldn't let him get around her. Ronove's magnificent dodges looked flashy, but they needed sufficient room. Once again, he wouldn't be able to dodge anymore. Jessica had a good understanding of the special characteristics of her equipped weapon, the brass knuckles. This powerful weapon's most notable characteristic was how it didn't let the opponent defend. Even if they blocked with their arm, that arm would receive direct damage. Even if it hit the wrong way, it might even break the bone. So she pressed him forward. She would block off his escape routes, and then, with this fist, she would chip this demon down!
ほっと、おや、いつの間に。
ようやく追い詰めたぜ。みんなを捕らえている場所はどこだ。クソジジイのいる場所はどこだ。洗いざらい喋ったらそのヒゲをむしり取るだけで勘弁して。
Anything but the mustache!
それは困ります。これでもセットに毎朝1時間をかけているのですから。
Okay, it is a fashionable mustache, so I can understand.
キブスの世話になったらそれもできねえな。
おっと。
Ooh. Alright. Hell yeah. Jessica has the upper hand in this fight at least. Ronove had blocked Jessica's lunge fist with his arm. He tried to act as though it was no big deal, but it must have hurt a lot. Jessica grinned. Ronove smiled the same way, but twitched slightly.
なるほど。これは確かに痛いですね。
最終勧告。泣いて詫びろ。
それはできませんね。キャラが崩れます。
ならお前が崩れ落ちるといいぜ。鶴瓶打ちだ。
Jessica's iron fists were pounded into Ronove. But Jessica was startled. The impact felt wrong, and there was the sound of breaking glass. At a glance, it looked like Ronobe had caught Jessica's fist with his palm. But that wasn't quite true. When Ronobe opened his hand, a faint purple glowing barrier like a glass shield appeared there, stopping the attack by a hair's breadth. Pulling herself together, Jessica struck out with her fist again, but with truly magnificent movements, Ronobe caught all of them.
悪魔ですのでこの程度の魔法くらいはそれにしてもなかなかやりますね。人間だったら私はここで降参だったでしょう。悪魔だからまだ戦い続けることができる。
おかしな真似を。
それで終わりですか。攻撃を繰り出すばかりでご自身の防御がおろそかではありませんか。
Oh no! Ronobe pounded his palm into Jessica's stomach, stopping abruptly just a fraction away. Jessica was repelled by a purple shield, tumbled backwards, and smashed her head on the bed.
人間ごときに私のシールドは破れませんよ。もう二度と私の体に触れることができると思わぬことです。
ならよ、そのシールドごとぶち抜いてやるぜ。
不屈な方だ。その根性、なるほど。次期当主として実にふさわしい。もう少しお相手させていただきましょうかね。これも試験官の役得です。
Damn.
砕けろ
Gaap looked down on George, sneering. He was lying face down in a puddle on the rose garden path. The merciless rain beat down on him, so that it looked as though even the heavens were mocking him.
立ちなさい。また落ちるわよ。
George stood up shakily. It seemed his spirit hadn't given in, but the damage to his body was fairly significant.
命乞いなさい。君のしていることは何も選ばない4番目の選択肢に同じ。君が選んだのは3番目の選択肢でしょ。両手両膝をついて詫びれば私への非礼を許してあげるわ。そしたら君を地下牢へ案内してあげる。そこで君は愛するシャノンと非力な自分のために他の人質たちを一人ずつ殺していくの。できるわよね。その覚悟はあると君は豪語したわ。
George didn't answer, but his gaze still obstinately resisting surrender. But his gaze was still obstinately resisting surrender. Oops, sorry.
あまり強情が過ぎると今度こそ奈落の底の底まで。
Gaap's strength was undeniable. There was no doubt that Shannon's group, watching through the three-sided mirror, understood that. Probably even more clearly than George himself.
庄司様。
Thanks for being born.
やめて。私なんかのために。
姉さん。
私のことなんて好きにならなければ、ジョージ様は誰とも戦わなくていいんでしょ。なら、私なんて捨ててください。忘れてください。
There was no way for that voice to reach George. But even so, George answered.
嫌だね。僕は屈服しない。
へえ、どうして？
それが僕の覚悟だからだ。僕はシャノンのために全てと戦う。そして全てに認めさせ、全てに僕たちを祝福させる。
ねえ、聞かせて。どうしてあのシャノンとかいう家具のためにそこまで言えるの？あんなのただの出来損ないじゃない。給仕一つ満足にできないガラクタ家具だわ。
愛する女性への暴言を僕はそれ以上許さない。
Yeah.
だったら何？ひ弱な僕ちゃんが私にどう抗うというのかしら。
人を愛するとは強さだ。それを知ったから僕は強くなれた。シャノン、僕は君を愛している。その言葉だけで僕は何度でも立ち上がれるんだ。
シャノンは力をよ。私に愛を語られても。
いや、伝わった。それが愛だからだ。シャノンには今僕の言葉が聞こえているよ。そうだと信じられることこそが愛だ。
こいつ。
シャノン、君は家具なんかじゃない。家具だったとしても世界でただ一つの僕だけの家具だ。生涯僕と寄り添ってほしい。僕には君が永遠に必要だ。
庄司様、焼けるわ。口説きならうちの人を超えたわね。
若さですな。
Thanks for the commentary. The commentary from Najo and Kyria. You know, I kind of slightly forgot that Najo was in the room.
愛が強さなら坊やはどうしてそんなにひ弱なの？その弱さがつまり君の愛の程度なわけね。婚約者への愛もひ弱。両親のあっけない死に様もひ弱。君の人生は何から何までひ弱だわ。
シャノンは僕に愛と強さを教えてくれた。もし君が僕の強さだけでシャノンへの愛を確かめようというのなら僕の愛を教えよ
う。言うわね。なるほど。何度も蹴り倒されて転がされ、それでも立ち上がるのがシャノンからもらった強さだと。ならあっけなく殺されたあんたのお父さんとお母さんからは何をもらったの
？Suddenly, there was a blackout. Outside?
違う。これは。
The thing blocking Gaap's vision was the bottom of George's shoe!
即答蹴り。
Victima Propitoria. My apologies if I mispronounced that. Yell at me in the comments.
尾骨骨折。
And it stopped right in front of the tip of Gaap's nose.
母さんにもらったものはこの蹴りだ。
After several moments' delay, Gaap jumped back. Of course, it was too late. If George hadn't stopped, he probably would have caused exactly the damage he had announced.
そして父さんにもらったのが忍耐力。
Sorry, the neck. Anger with a low boiling point isn't something to be truly feared. True anger is cultivated through patience.
君の暴力的意思表示は理解した。また婚約者と両親への名誉毀損も理解した。そしてそれを撤回する気がないんだね。
こいつ。
君の攻撃はもう十分に理解したから、そろそろいいかな、反撃しても。
ほざくな、坊やの分際で。
A pitch black hole opened its mouth at George's feet. But George rapidly opened his legs, straddling the hole. The same move wouldn't work again! It was an extremely light dodge, and the upper part of his body didn't even quiver.
忍耐とは熱くならず冷静に相手の出方を研究することだ。何のために？決まってるじゃないか。わかるかい？
わかんないわよ。
反撃してきっちり借りを返し、二度とちょっかいを出したくないと思わせ、涙と鼻水で顔面をぐちゃぐちゃにして、それを拭うのを忘れて、額を地面にこすりつけて何度も謝りたくなるほどに完膚なきまでに完璧に徹底的に叩きのめすためだよ。
Oh my god. George dashed. Pits opened one after another, but George would not step into them again. And because she persisted in that move, Gaap was captured for a second time.
後ろ回し蹴り、顎部骨折。
It was stretched out more forcefully and beautifully than Gaap's had been. Of course, while it centered directly on Gaap's face, it stopped a hair's breadth away. Perhaps she couldn't rely on pitfalls at this close range. Gaap kicked out George's shins as a diversion. And in the instant of weakness when he tried to deal with that, she aimed a kick at his stomach. It was a bee-like stab from her stiletto heel. But it sliced through the air where George was no longer.
上段かかと落とし、鎖骨骨折。
From beside Gaap, George coolly announced that, his foot still raised. If that monarch's heel had been swung down, a collarbone fracture would have been an understatement.
こいつ、資金じゃ私より強いの。距離を。
She jumped backwards to gain a large distance. She jumped and left, even backflipped, increasing the distance between them. It should have been magnificent, but for some reason, it looked very similar to the movements of a small, scared animal. If she opened the distance, she could fight at the range that was her specialty, using a mixture of pitfalls and kicking techniques.
バカが私を倒せるチャンスを3度も逃した傲慢。奈落の底で後悔なさい。
Gaap landed beautifully and tried to aim a pitfall, when a razor-sharp wind cut her bangs. Yes, cut them. And twice. This time, it didn't just stop a hair's breadth away, but shattered her bangs with its air pressure.
ア
Damn.
ルマーダ・コン・マルテーロ。第一撃で眼底骨折、第二撃で脳挫傷。
Gaap was too shocked to speak. George had to close all that distance in an instant, and let off a fearsomely nimble mid-air double kick. Furthermore, with the accuracy and edge of a razor, it had cut nothing more than a few of her bangs.
空手で蹴りの威力を、テコンドーで速度、カポエイラでは自在の間合いを学んだ。母さんがいろいろと移り気でね。でもいろいろと特徴を学べて勉強になったよ。
なぜ当てない？私が女だからとでも言うのか？
君は王者の力として3つ目に暴力と言ったね。君はどうやらまだその暴力の意味を誤解しているようだ。この場合の暴力とはね、短絡的に振るわれる乱暴のことを言うんじゃない。敵対すれば無傷では済まないという抑止のことを指すんだよ。
抑止。
That was the point. That was why all of George's attacks up until then had stopped just before the blow. These bare misses, which were most difficult than hitting directly, had all been performed so splendidly. And any one of them would probably have crushed Gaap in a single hit if George had wished it. He was deliberately not doing that.
君も言ったろ、暴力は滑る力だと。暴力で相手を破壊してしまったら滑られないじゃないか。王者の暴力とはね、見せるだけなんだよ。破壊しない、屈服させて自らの財産とするんだからね。君に泡でも吹かれたらみんなの囚われてる場所に案内させられないよ。
Gaap had to admit it. She had to admit that George understood force in the truest sense.
みんなのところへ案内してもらうよ。抵抗はおすすめしない。もう寸止めはしないよ。
ごめんねリア、あんたの兵隊借りさせて。私一人じゃ手に負えないわ、こいつ。
As a large, pitch-black hole opened in the sky. Thunk, thunk, thunk! 3 muscular ghost attendants fell out. They surrounded George.
増援会？それは僕がひ弱であることを撤回したと受け止めていいのかな？
認めるわ。あんたの人間の力を侮ってたわ。
違うね。これが愛を覚えた男の強さなのさ。
ほざけ！臭いことをシャーシャーと。さあヤギたち、その男を潰して肉団子にしてやりなさい。このヤギたちはバカだけどパワーだけはあるみたいよ。あんたの死体、婚約者にも見分けがつかなくしてあげるわ。
降伏拒否並びに継戦の意思、了解したよ。以後は君の攻撃に等しい分だけ君に実害が及ぶことを宣言する。
Oh man! You know, I was not expecting for actual fighting to occur, but I'm happy that actual fighting is occurring. Whenever there's a fight scene in Umineko, the music is 100%, even past 100%, so hell yeah. Hell yeah, I'm liking how we're seeing more fighting.
僕をまだ攻撃するつもりなら相応の損害を受けることになると覚悟。
Oops. Sorry about that. When George proclaimed that, a faint red magic circle rose up around him. But it seemed that George couldn't see it. However, Gaap, being a demon, could.
魔法？どうしてこいつが防御結界を？
Shannon!
しかもそれ反撃特化。それがあんたの抑止という意味。
From a demon's perspective, that might have been magic. But in George's eyes, it was determination. It was absolute determination that would show no mercy to anyone who wished for further fighting. It forced them to prepare for a significant counterattack. Absolute determination comes magic. Damn. Ronobe had been accurately blocking Jessica's fist with the shield, but something felt off. Even though he was certainly stopping the blows with the shield, he felt his arm beginning to strain and ache. All physical damage should have been shut off. However, the damage from her fist was gradually being transmitted to his arm and was accumulating. Ronobe acted like he was composed so that this wouldn't be noticed.
私はバテねえぜ。どうしたよおっさん。ちっとは答えてきたかよ。
いくら攻撃しようとも無駄ですよ。私のシールドはあなたには砕けないとどうしてわからないのです？
砕けないからってよ、殴るのをやめはしないぜ。どんな固い心にだって言葉はわずかずつ響き、やがてはひびを入れることだってできるんだ。私は信じてる。この世に無駄な努力なんて存在しないってな。だから生きるんだろ、思いっきり。
I have to admit, I like Jessica quite a lot, so I might be cheering her a lot more than I have been cheering George, but I'm cheering George quite a lot too. I wish for the both of them to succeed, though it's likely that they won't, but I'm still wishing for the both of them to succeed.
言葉だっていつか通じるなら拳だって同じってことだぜ。私の辞書には諦めるって文字は書いちゃいねえんだぜ。
Those words were probably aimed at Cannon. Cannon had technically rejected Jessica's words, but Jessica knew that, no matter how obstinate his heart was, those words would eventually soak through. And she believed that surely the day would come when he would understand her heart and stop calling himself furniture and disparaging himself, and step out into his new life. So Jessica wouldn't give up. She wouldn't lose heart.
バカみてえだろ。男には理解できねえだろ。恋する乙女ってのはな、無駄だから諦めるって考えがねえんだぜ。
At that time, Ronobe certainly saw. He saw the red-hot burning glow of light surround Jessica's fist.
これは参りました。エンチャントですか。浸透不要とは厄介な。
Within her relentless fist and determination, dwelled the power to succeed no matter what. From a demon's perspective, that was magic. Absolute determination becomes magic.
な、無駄なんてことはねえだろ。通ってんだろ、私の拳。腕をかばってるぜ、おっさん。
もう少し本気を出さざるを得ないようですね。おっしゃる通りのようです。この世に無駄なことなどない。
そうさ、無駄なんて諦めたらそこで人生が終わっちまうぜ。通じるんだよ、絶対に。
I'm an idiot, so this is the only way I can live. But even so, I believe that one day, I'll definitely be able to teach Kanekun about a new world! So, I'm not gonna buckle to a place like this. I'll definitely defeat you! And save everyone!
くそ！なんとか隙間を！
Klaus was repeating his useless effort in trying to somehow open a hole between the metal bars. I don't know if he's punching it or not. He might be body slamming. Useless. There's nothing useless. There's nothing. He's gonna break through, isn't he? The lookout goats have been swallowed up by those black pits and disappeared. Now was their do or die chance. This was their only chance to break the bars.
よせ、無茶だ。クラウスさん。
Never say that, Nanjo.
素手でどうにかなるもんじゃない。道具を探しましょう。無茶をするんじゃない。無駄と諦めたらそれまでと娘に言われてしまった。私の体は無理でも
小柄なシャノンかカノンが抜けられれば。
Hell yeah!
この段階に至っては出ない知恵を絞るより行動あるのみね。力を合わせましょう。私もやるわ。カノン君、男の子でしょ。手を貸して。カノン君、旦那様、
F style.
下がってください。
He's going to open the bars!
何をする気だ。
いいよね、姉さん。もう一度だけあがいても。
私ももう一度だけあがくよ。
Fuck yes! Fuck yes!
一度だけじゃない。何度でも。
Jessica's voice had reached Cannon. It had suddenly permeated into his stone-cold heart. And George's voice had reached Shannon. If the love he had shown was embodied by Shrink, she would have to respond in the same way. An incredible metallic sound rang out. The first flash horizontally cut through several of the metal bars, and with the next flash, they were cut through horizontally again, causing them to clatter to the ground like bamboo shoots cut by a sword. Klaus, Kyrie, and Nanjo didn't even have a clue about what had just happened. Fuck yeah.
南條先生、お屋敷や廊下をどっちに。
左奥だ、左奥。
参りましょう、旦那様方。すぐにワルギリア様に気づかれます。
あんたたちは一体何なの。僕たちは。
When Ken hung his head a little and faltered, Shannon slapped his shoulder, smiled, and spoke.
私たちは人間です。
Ah! Yes! Revolt!
ワルギリア様！警戒網に反応、脱獄です。なぜか見張りのヤギがいません。
どうしてです？ガープですね。人の召喚物を勝手に。ガープ
交戦規定確認。脱走者への射殺許可を申請であります。
おやりなさい。やっちゃいなさい。ガップ
了解であります。45410追撃狙撃戦準備。弾手収束誘導弾。ワルギリア様、逃亡阻止結界を。
そうでしたね。ここから逃がしはしませんよ。ガップが下噛みました。
Oh man! Come on! As they ran down the underground passage, I'm gonna repeat that. As they ran down the underground passage, the path in front of them was once again blocked by metal bars. The door was, of course, locked. However, that was no problem for them now.
カノン、また鉄合した。頼む。
はい、旦那様。しかしすごいわ。一体どういう原理なのかしら。
原理なぞ興味ないね。大事なのは彼に鉄格子が切断できてここから脱出できることだけだ。気にするなカノン、やれ。
お任せを。
Cannon sliced the metal bars again with a red trail. But there was a harsh, strange noise, and only a slight scratch was left on the metal bars.
なんと、これは頑丈な。
違う、エンチャントされてるワルギリア様の魔法錠だ。
切断できる？
もちろん。でも時間をかけるよ。
3分間待ってやる。
After taking a deep breath and focusing on his concentration, Cannon once again extended his sword that trailed red. When he pressed its When he pressed it hard against the metal bars, sparks sprayed, almost as though he was burning through them with a blowtorch.
切断はできそうだが手こずりそうだな。
旦那様、敵に捕捉されました。下がってください。
追って誰も来てないわよ。
私の後ろに下がってください。狙われてます。45データ治療。標的は捕捉。地形誤差修正。射撃曲線形成。制御点補正完了。410データリンク。410データ受領。危険区域確認。問題なし。WO 師団装填48発。個別誘導 F&F。収束誘導弾準備完了。45射撃準備完了。収束誘導弾装填。410にひひひ射撃。
A golden arrow that sparkled gold was fired, leaving a gold trail streaming behind. It drew a curve, went through the door, through the keyhole, down the stairs, towards the underground path at full speed.
何か光りましたぞ。
黄金の矢はシールドで防げない。カノン君、迎撃態勢。リンクしよ
う。ゲートキーパー了解。姉さんと一緒に戦うのは久しぶりだ。動じらないでよ。
うん、本気でやる。
なら問題ない。
Cannon stopped cutting the bars and stood in front of Shannon. Behind him, Shannon closed her eyes, concentrating her mind, focusing deep into the darkness of the underground path. A guided cluster round is a special kind of arrow made up of 48 sub-rounds bound together. It explodes mid-flight and divides into 48 mini arrows. The strength of each individual one is low, but they pierce through all shields and possess total lethality against ground troops. And on top of that, each one of the 48 possesses autonomous guidance towards their individual targets.
分裂した。
収束誘導弾分裂確認。師団46、7、8、48全弾捕捉。迎撃完成。カノンへデータリンク。
カノンデータ受領。姉さんの能力はすごいな。48発全部見える。
迎撃優先順位に注意。姉さんを信じて。
もちろんさ。僕は目を開ける必要さえない。
迎撃開始。
はあ
？Holy shit!
目標健在。迎撃されました。いや48発全部。
シャノンとカノンはもともと一組の家具ですからね。揃うと手強いこと。あいたたた。これ口内炎になっちゃうかしら。
落ち着け。再装填。弾種を変更。精密高速狙撃弾。精密狙撃戦準備。そりゃいいね。追撃不能の超高速弾。ゲートキーパーごときじゃ防御不能だに。精密狙撃戦了解。精密射撃用データ収集開始。
一体今のは何なんだ。
安心して。私にもさっぱりよ。一つわかるのは二人に頼らなきゃ死んでたってことね。
カノン君ありがとう。鉄格子に戻って。多分次のは迎撃できない弾が来る。
そんな攻撃をどう防ぐんだ。
撃たせません。カノン君霊視線防備。
At those words, Cannon closed his eyes tightly and clenched his teeth. With Shannon at the center, a pressure and impact blasted out that could only be perceived by those not human. Whoa! Oh, that's cool! so cool!
あれ射撃システムエラー。ダメだ、再起動。あれ
霊波妨害、霊視防護、急げ。何をしてるか、早く耳を塞げ。45。
An unseen, unheard impact blasted towards the Chiesa sisters. Double O and 410 crouched down, covering their ears, but 45 didn't make it in time. Still standing bolt upright. Her eyes rolled inside her head.
キューキューキューキューキュー。45損傷。コンパイラのエンジンがいっちゃったよ。キャー、私もノイズがひどいに。45、410、そして WO 損傷。狙撃戦を断念。リンクでもろに来た。再起動しないと。
Raising their spirit particle sensitivity for precision sniping had backfired. They had taken the full brunt of the spirit particle shockwave Shannon had released. And not only 45, who had been hit directly, but also 00 and 410, who had been linked with her, were taken down.
大丈夫ですか？後でまた美味しい紅茶を入れてあげますからね。しっかり。
申し訳ございませんであります。再起動をかけます。数百秒ほどお待ちを。
All the Chiesa sisters collapsed. They would probably get back up eventually, but it looked like it would be hard for them to return to the battle lines for a while.
家具が武具を一時的にとはいえ退けますか。なるほど。あの子の面白がる筋書きは実に大番狂わせが多いこと。
Virgilia tore the air with a large motion as though opening a door.
さあさあおいでなさい。ヤギの従者たち、お仕事の時間ですよ。脱走者たちを殺して捕らえなさい。死体でいいのですよ。どうせ蘇生できるし。
A gold-colored door opened in the air, and countless giant goats with muscular bodies peeked their faces out.
さあさあ急ぎなさい。脱走者は5人いるから5等賞までの早い者勝ち。素敵なご褒美がありますよ。さあさあ頑張って頑張って。
Virgilia clapped her hands, urging them on. A prize? After glancing at each other at those words, the goats rushed to the door at once, trying to get out, making the exit as tight a squeeze as the trains during the commuter rush. Each wanted to get out first, so none of them could get out. Virgilia held her head in frustration. By that time, Cannon had managed to cut just enough bars to make a gap that could be slipped through. It proved a bit of work for Klaus, large as he was, and Nanjo, whose waist was nearly his downfall, but even so, they all managed to make it through. But the relief at getting through was short-lived. Immediately, another set of metal bars blocked the way in front of them.
厳重ね。よっぽどここの人を逃がしたくなかったんでしょうね。
カノン、すまんがもう一度頼む。辛いだろうが頼む。
There was sweat on Cannon's forehead. You could tell at a glance that cutting the metal bars, which had been made even more solid by magic, was exhausting him considerably.
はい、お任せを、旦那様。
お前にしかできん。どうか頼む。
Only he could do it. Holding tightly onto those words, Cannon concentrated his mind again, and once more set himself to the task of cutting the bars.
後方、敵が来ます。複数。
ええ、今度は私たちにもわかるわ。すごい地響きね。とんでもない化け物が殺到してくるのがわかるわ。
ご安心を。 今抜けた鉄格子を私が魔法杖で封鎖します。ヤギたちごときには破れません。
Shannon held her hand out towards the bars that they had. Shannon held her hand out towards the bars they had come through, but she stopped right away.
どうかしましたか？
バルギリア様が霊波妨害の中和を開始。破られるとまずい。シエスタ姉妹の再起動後のイニシアチブを奪われます。
可愛いウサギたちをいじめてくれたお返しはたっぷりとさせていただきますよ。この小賢しい霊視で優位に立とうというなら、それを丸ごと剥ぎ取って私が奪ってあげます。
姉さんは霊波妨害に集中して。あのヤギたちにその鉄格子の隙間は狭すぎる。しばらくは食い止めてくれるはず。
何を言っているかさっぱりだもん。
だいぶヤバいってことだけは理解できたわ。
Kyrie picked up a metal bar that Cannon had just cut. Klaus had no weapon, but he rubbed his fist, and the two of them glared into the depths of the underground passage where the shaking was coming from.
この鉄格子で遮るものはおしまいのはずだ。
ここから屋敷までどのくらいあるんです？
かなり歩く。道は平坦だが30分は歩いた記憶が。
全力疾走ならその半分ってことだわ。
They couldn't tell for sure since they didn't have a three-sided mirror, but there was no guarantee that George and Jessica could hold out against demon opponents for all that time.
歩く2倍の速度で走れば15分。さらにその2倍で走れば8分を切るわ。
Well, technically 7.5 minutes, but I'm not gonna say anything.
さらにその倍の全力疾走なら5分かかる。問題ない。
むちゃくちゃな計算ですが。ですが、火島の計算式はそういうものです。
申し訳ございません。旦那様、後を頼みます。
任せたまえ。カノンは1秒でも早く鉄格子を。シャノンはワルギリアとかいう魔女への妨害に専念したまえ。追っては私とキリエさんで防ぐ。
Then, the roars of beasts rang out from the darkness, and numerous fiery glowing bright red eyes appeared. Ghosts rushing towards them with thunderous force were several levels more massive than the guards had been. The tremors they created were almost like an earthquake. The power and terror was tremendous, but Kyrie instead laughed with relief. Those massive bodies wouldn't be able to go through the gaps in the bar. The gap in the bars, sorry. The group of ghosts crashed into the metal bars with a terrific sound like that of a train colluding with a dead end. Clumps of dirt fell here and there from the ceiling, and you could tell that the metal bars had buckled inwards. The force of their change must have been no different from a train. If the metal bars hadn't been there, they would undoubtedly have swallowed the five of them up and crushed them in an instant. When the group of goats pressed up against the metal bars, realized that the five were right in front of them, they let out a terrible howl, trying to intimidate the five. Although it was hard to tell whether that was really intimidation, or because of the pain from being pushed and shoved. One Komgo among them figured out that it just needed to do something about the metal bars, and grabbed two of them with its massive arms and began bending them as though opening double doors. Kyrie sharply jabbed her metal pole at the goat's vitals. Kyrie sharply jabbed her metal pole at that goat's vitals. The goat let out a roar of anguish. It probably hurt a lot, but that was all. It wasn't enough to bring it down.
Krauss!
Still holding the stuck-in metal pole, Kyrie relinquished the opposite tip to Klaus. Klaus ran there with all his might, leapt into the air, and kicked it in with all of his weight and kicking power combined. All that destructive power was focused onto that single pole, drilling it in! There's a spit on my screen.
大丈夫ですかな。患部は揉まないように。お薬は後で処方しましょう。 お大事に。
Wait, is he saying that to the goat? As the goat, who had taken a pile bunker to its vitals, writhed with teary eyes. It nodded its head.
私たちのリンクも結構いけるじゃない。シャノンちゃんたちには負けられないわ。
当然じゃないか。私たちは仲良し一族だからね。
二人がかりでならいけるわ。次、右側のあいつ。
了解だ。いい嫁さんじゃないか。ルドルフね。少し愚痴が多かったんじゃないか。
へえ、後で聞かせてもらうわ。ルドルフさん、天国で青くなっても手遅れよ。
Uh-oh. Mortal Stampede! The goat's massive body sank into the rose bush. Oh, we're back to George! Even taking into account that Elaine's power is 3 times that of an arm, this strength surpassed common sense. That massive body flying up and through the air from being kicked in the chin. It was too epic! Even George seemed a little surprised.
僕の蹴りが化け物にも通用したとはね。驚きだよ。
あんたの反撃特化結界のせいよ。ブレイズした攻撃力をそのまま自らに上乗せしてる。あんたの蹴りにはその化け物どもの怪力が加算されてるのよ。
へえ、よくわからないけど僕にぴったりじゃないか。誰であろうとも攻撃してくるなら等しい反撃を覚悟してもらう。専守防衛、僕のポリシーそのものだ。
That's why Gaap couldn't easily touch him. The counterattacking type barrier had no defensive power. However, because of its counterattacking characteristic, it could be useful in defense by making the opponent hesitate to attack. The goats were foolish, so they attacked without worrying. But the effect was being realized to the full against Gaap.
こいつらは単調だね。パワーが互角であるならば小柄な方が有利だ。
He lightly dodged the log-like arm. When that arm touched the barrier that protected George, it let off a strong red light. And the tip of the foot that was counterattacking gained the same shine. And the superhuman power of the goat was added to George's own. The second the goat fell forward and floated in the air for a second. Then, George's next roundhouse kick missed right over the fallen goat's head. For an instant, the goat hoped to get away with its life. But no! A heel was dropped onto the back of its head, and it was forced to kiss the ground!
上段回し蹴りからの練りチャギは基本だろ。たまにやると結構当たるよ。
こいつ厄介だわ。マジで厄介だわ。
Ha ha!
何が悪魔だ、何が魔女だ。六軒島の主人はこの後ろ宮家だよ。それを体で教えてやるよ。
こいつ。
The only way to finish off George, now that his body was wrapped up in the counterattacking type barrier, was... Wow. Okay. Maybe I should slow down. The only way to finish off George, now that his body was wrapped up in the counterattacking type barrier, was to not allow him to counterattack. Next time she sucked him into the abyss, she would have to kick and drop him, kick and drop him, kick and drop him, until she kicked him to death! But George had already perfected reading the faint warning signs that told of the appearance of Gaap's pitfalls. If he managed to jump over that next pit, then this time, he would probably polarize Gaap's head with his whirlwind-like kick without holding back in the slightest, just as had been done to his parents. She was able to envision that scene vividly. It was far too late now, but Gaap cursed Kinzo all the same for calling her out to this ridiculous island. And then there's Renobe. Renobe finally started using both of his hands to form his shield. Without a more powerful shield, he wouldn't be able to completely block Jessica's fist anymore. The enchantment on Jessica's fist grew the more she fought. The Permission upgrade had already stacked several times. And those fists had also been given an impact upgrade, a piercing upgrade, and a speed upgrade, making them fists worthy to fight on par with the demon.
どうしたよ。へばってきたんじゃねえのかよ。動きが鈍ってきてるぜ。
いいえ、ジェシカ様の動きと思考、動体視力が飛躍的にエンチャントされているのです。私の動きは最初から変わっていませんよ。あなたの動きが私を捉えつつあるのです。
それでも反撃はしねえわけか。
これが私のこだわりですので。しかしこのままというわけにもいきますまい。そろそろ本気で終わりにさせてもらいますよ。
Ronobe's face turned into an expression he had never shown before. It was truly demonic, and to Jessica's eyes, full of respect. Because it was an expression only shown to enemies strong enough to make him get serious. Can we see it? Can we see his expression? Oh, it's just a smug smile.
なんだこれ。
With a whole body gesture that you couldn't call elegant, Ronobe set up a shield with all of his strength, the size and thickness of a wall. Its sturdiness was nothing like shield. It was literally a wall. And on top of that, with all of Ronobe's magical power, it pushed Jessica back bit by bit. Did he plan on pushing her back against the wall and crushing her to death? Jessica tried to break through the wall with both fists, but it was solid. Without any exaggeration, it was solid!
これがお前の本気かよ。上等だぜ。打ち砕け。
Hell yeah!
今度はそうはさせませんよ。この壁は一味違います。どれ、私もエンチャントさせていただきましょう。
Ronobe made magic signs with his fingers, almost like a ninja. The wall glowed red for just an instant, and became imbued with some kind of ominous power. Almost immediately, Jessica also gained a first-hand understanding of this. Every time she pounded her fist against the wall, pain rebounded upon her as though glass fragments had scattered and hit all over her body.
攻撃反応装甲を付与させていただきました。ジェシカ様の攻撃を相殺することで威力を減退させ、のみならず反応破片で反撃までできる優れものです。殴り続けるのは大いに結構ですが、それは自らにも及びますよ。
つまりお前の壁と私の我慢比べってことかよ。上等だ。
Yes!
ジェシカ様が膝をつくのが先か、壁に押し込まれるのが先か、見物させていただきましょう。
打ち破ってこの壁ごとお前の横っ面をぶっ飛ばす方が先かもな。見てやがれ。
Woo! Without hesitation, Jessica slammed both fists into the wall. Each time she did, a large amount of shards scattered, tormenting her body all over. Countless red cuts soon appeared all over her body. She grimaced at the intense pain, but her eyes were burning with fighting spirit, and her lips curved in a grin exactly the opposite of the pain.
カノン、まだかね。私たちは平気だが、奴らを防ぐ鉄格子が平気ではなさそうだ。
もう少しです。
Come on, Cannon.
こいつらキリがないわ。おしくらまんじゅうだけで鉄格子を破りかねない。
The metal bars creaked under the strain of the group of goats. Several arms grabbed the bars, twisting them with superhuman strength. However, some bars were being pulled in opposite directions by different hands. Apparently, they really were stupid. The way those countless hands were grabbing the metal bars happened to match up by chance. several hands grasping two metal bars nearly put the power together and pulled the bars to the left and right, creating an opening. The incredible sound of metal bending could be heard, and that gap was getting larger bit by bit. They attacked the arms of those ghosts one by one, but they weren't getting anywhere. They couldn't stop the gap from expanding left and right. A loud metallic sound came from behind them. Cannon had finally finished cutting.
早く
キリエさん、レディーファーストだ。南條先生も続いて。
旦那様、ここは僕に任せてください。これは
Cannon's red sword, with which she had cut the metal bars, disappeared.
ごめん。バルギリア様の霊視線影響下に入った。私たちの魔力が中和されてる。
Oh no. Purgatory, catastrophe, recipe.
よくも大魔女と呼ばれた私にここまで抗ったものです。もはやその地下道ではあなたたちの魔法は使えませんよ。
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit, man. A magic circle column drew complex magical formulae around Virgilia. With such full-fledged magic being used, Shannon's power couldn't even compete. On the contrary, it was surprising that she had withstood as much as she had.
霊視優勢を確保。さあ、シエスタ姉妹、今度こそあなたたちの出番ですよ。ってまだ再起動してるんですか？なんで最近の子は寝起きが悪いの？
申し訳ありませんであります。私たち全員バージョンが違ってて。
なんでバージョン変わるたびにショートカットとプルダウンがしっちゃかめっちゃかになるに。前回不正な終了がありました？管理者権限？何これわけわかんない。早く直して。
この得体トラブルシュートにコール。何？ユーザーコードがないと教えない？
ユーザーコードは45が管理してるに。
9999にしか聞こえん。紙に書かせろ。
言語支援システム再起動できてないから文字も書けないに。
お前たちは今修理していなさい。
Virgilia can't even be mad at them.
私が行ってきます。
ごめんなさい。
The narrow underground passage was packed with ghosts, truly like a commuter train in the morning. Really? You even have background noise like a commuter train. Virgilia was again in disbelief at this congestion.
何をやってるんですか？ご褒美が欲しいから一番乗りがしたい？他のヤギにご褒美を奪われたくないから邪魔をし合っている？このおバカヤギたちが！私が行きますから道を開けなさい。何？嫌ですってね？ワルギリア様がご褒美を奪うつもりだ？なんでスクラム組んでるんですか？きつい狭い。いつからここはヤギ専用車両に？今お尻触った子、次の駅で降りなさい。何あなた、こっちへ来いって。
No? The 5 people in Klaus's group dashed through the passageway with all their strength. They couldn't afford to dawdle around on the ground. They had to quickly join up with the children on the surface. Once everyone was together, there would no longer be anything to fear. Just then, a terrible rumble started closing in from behind. Had the pursuers finally made it through the metal bars? But they couldn't see anyone when they turned around. But that rumble and the dirt falling here and there from the ceiling grew closer and closer, finally catching up with them and even going past them. It felt almost like they were It felt almost like they had been passed by ghosts. Uh-oh. The instant after they thought that nothing had happened, the ceiling in front of them fell in, and a single goat stood in their path. Death from stupefaction. Virgilia was sitting on his shoulder.
賢い子が近道を知っていました。偉い子ですね。一等賞ですよ。後で手作りのサバの唐揚げにご馳走してあげますよ。
Mackerel. Kumasawa's favorite. Maybe it really was happy to receive such a dubious prize. The massive ghost showed its joy by putting its hands together and wiggling. Virgilia leapt down, laughing now that it was finally checkmate.
そう、ダメだ。魔力が完全に殺されてる。
まだよ。魔法がなくても私たちにはまだこの体がある。
無茶だ。あんな化け物にあの不思議な力がなくて戦えるわけがない。
子供たちは下がっていたまえ。私が何とかするから、その隙にあの化け物の両脇を駆け抜けるんだ。
Go Claws!
させませんよ。
Virgilia clapped her hand, ow, and a purple magic barrier appeared behind her, stealing even the faint hope that Klaus had been betting on.
ドンジ、キュースか。いや、まだだ。ジェシカも戦った。私が戦わんわけにはいかん。
You go, Klaus!
本気なの？無理よ、あんな巨大な化け物に。
むちゃくちゃだ。クラウスさん、他の方法を考えましょ
う。思いついたら提案してくれたまえ。それまでは私が何とかするしかないようだ。さあ、下がりたまえ。
気をつけて。
おやおや、クラウス、あなた一人でこの子と戦うつもりですか？
わからんぞ。戦いにはまぐれあたりの一発だってあり得る。
Come on, Klaus! Just have faith in yourself and your ability to defeat that damn goat! Have the hope that your daughter has!
まぐれでも勝てるつもりとお思いですか？身の程知らずのあなたのために私が状況を整理して差し上げましょう。
何？
あなたが 100% の力を発揮したとしてあなたの戦闘力はせいぜい6。対してこの子の戦闘力は1000。つまりあなたが100人束になっても絶対に勝てないということです。
What's with the number?
まあ確かに戦いには不確定要素もあります。その戦闘力に多少の倍率がかかることも認めましょう。しかしそれでもあなたがこの子を倒せる確率は 0.00001% というところでしょうか。
Does the number appear every time she says that Klaus is not gonna win?
お分かりかしら。あなたには万に一つの勝ち目がないということです。
Oh my god, every time she says that Klaus is gonna lose, a number appears on the screen. Virgilia and the goat guffawed together.
くそ、万一ということは配当は1万倍ということではないかね。いい大穴だ。そういう馬券は好きだよ。買いたくなる。
So that's why you're in a financial situation.
それを買うコインはあなたの命1枚しかありませんよ。しかしそ それでもその奇跡に運命を託したいというあなたの気持ちよくわかります。ですので恐れずに立ち向かうあなたの勇気をたたえ一つハンデを差し上げましょう。この子は左腕一本で戦います。
Wait. Okay, I don't understand the number now. I don't understand the number now. Is it every time she insults Klaus, a number appears?
まあそれでもあなたに負ける気は全くしませんが、それにしても何かしらさっきからピンク
よかろう。
So she's even aware of it.
その勝負受けて立ってやる。左腕だろうとなんだろうと、どうせ私は一撃で殺されるだろう。私のチャンスもまた一撃しかないのだ。それに全てかけるしかあるまい。
むちゃくちゃだ、クラウスさん。あんたがボクシングをやってたことは知っているが、それでも大学時代のはず。
Klaus was a boxer? Well, I mean, he does have a pretty big build, so that does make sense.
いやいや、仮にプロのボクサーがいたとしても、あんな化け物一撃で倒せるはずもない。
リングの上での試合なら確かにね。でもクラウス兄さんが望みをかけるチャンスがわずかだけどあるわ。彼はそれに全て望みをかけている。
まさか。しかしそんなのうまくいくわけがない。
旦那様、
見ていろ。一撃で決めてやる。
Oh! Oh! How unwise! I know what you're gunning for. The distance between the two of them is more than 10 meters. If the goats and Klaus both step in with all their strength to settle the fight with a single blow, their power will be double the norm. Both will crash together, so it will be a relative 4 times normal. Even if, on top of that, the strike miraculously lands on a weak point for a critical hit, that would only double the power. In short, Klaus's maximum power level of 6 times 8 will cap out at 48 at the most. He might just barely be able to win if he repeated that lucky shot a full 20 times. Oh, if you're killed every time you take a hit and your damage still accumulates, let's see, perhaps you could finally win when we get to episode 24? Oh, if only the series could stretch on so long. Either way, you don't even have the number even appears in her head. Either way, you don't even have the slightest chance of victory. Good gracious, what is that bing bong I keep hearing?
私も一撃に全てをかけさせていただく。ヤギ君も遠慮することはない。本気で来たまえ。
全力を要望ですよ。本気の一撃で粉砕し肉片に変えてやりなさいな。
As the goat got excited and beat his chest over and over, it took position as though preparing for a sprint. Oh, is this what you were hoping for? Stake your hopes on your greatest power level, and despair even when that doesn't reach at all. Number 8. It pinged again! That thing is really getting on my nerves. What is it?
行くぞ。いいかね。
The goat roared in response. Then, with matched timing that only the men confronting each other could comprehend, the two leapt forward like bullets shot out of a gun. The men howled, collecting the strength from all over their bodies into one arm each. The goat's fiery glowing eyes clearly locked on the Klaus's face. He could perfectly see a vision of when he would step forwards, when he would punch through Klaus and blow him away, and when he would achieve his total victory. The long, oh my god! The long, painful days before today drifted through the goat's mind. I'm going to be eaten! The hard days of training where his senpais had picked on him. Oh my god, he was trained by Beelzebub! Leave this to me and go on ahead. Senpai! The faint glimpses of his senpai's warm concern during those days. Sorry to keep you waiting, you guys. Why are you here? And the joy his power had been acknowledged, and he had been accepted as one of the team. I never properly respected my parents. That's right. I'd actually planned on washing my hands of this business when this job was over, and returning to my hometown. Sorry, my little goat sister. Your Oni-chan has caused you nothing but trouble. And I actually have a childhood friend, and I'm going to marry her when I get home.
Yeah!
Dread of the grave. Oh shit. Oh my. Wait, is that what it was? Loser flags? Is that what it was? Fucking loser flags? Oh my god. Loser flags. The term flag here originally described an invisible state value in a game's coding, which is to be tripped or triggered when the player takes some action that influences future events. The moment of the flag trip itself is usually not visible, and can only be detected through later changes in dialogue, or events that signal to the player that they have impacted events or changed routes. In casual usage of the term, and especially when applying the concept to a non-interactive medium, these moments that indicate clearly to the genre sabi... okay, I'm gonna repeat that. In casual uses of the term, and especially when applying the concept to a non-interactive medium, these moments that indicate clearly to the genre savvy that events that are inexorably unfolding a certain way are themselves called flags. And it is in this sense that the phrase loser flags is used here, to refer to the occurrence of a cliche that is almost always followed by a total failure for a character in a story. That's what they were! Loser flags! You know, I was not expecting that. Oh my god. So, all the pings were loser flags. So they were not insults at class, they were loser flags at Virgilia for following too many cliches. The old-fashioned villain and her cliches are being called out even by the game's programming. Oh man, I cannot hate Virgilia. I cannot hate Virgilia. Oh my god. It happened to instant before the two crashed into Punch's class.
愚かね、ワルギリア。冷静な判断を欠いたようよ。そのパンチを受けてはなりません。弾きなさい。
What? Wait, did the goat have a line? The very instant the goat leapt straight and classed his right straight class. The goat obeyed Virgilia's order with super fast reflexes and pulled back his strength, deflecting Klaus's punch. Yes, Virgilia's decision was probably wise. After all, the number of loser flags act as a multiplier on the opponent's power level.
危ないところでした。こんな負けフラグ立てまくりの状態で食らっていたら、どれほどの威力に倍率がかかっていたことか。そう、そこでガラ空きの右側面に右ストレートを叩き込んでやりなさい。何？左腕一本で戦う約束？約束は破るためにある。また立った。失望よ、ワルギリア。あなたはやはり冷静を欠いていたわ。なんですって。直前に気づいて避けさせた私のどこが冷静でないと。ど
うしてですか、キリエ様。あのまま激突していたら旦那様の勝ちだったのでは。
そうか。負けフラグの数が20でもまだ足りないんだ。
Oh. Colossus and the goats double rush made it times 4. With a miracle on their side, the firm promise of a critical hit would double it again for times 8. On top of that, the multiplier times 20 equal to the number of trip loser flags applies, making it times 160. At a glance, that looks like an incredible amplification, but even so, Colossus' power level is at 6. Even multiplied by 160, it only makes for a power level of 960. Just a fraction below the goat's 1000.
だから冷静じゃないと言ったのよ。あなた失敗したわ。そのまま激突していればあなたの勝ちだったのよ。たとえそうだったとしても、この右ストレートでクラウスの頭を砕けば同じこと。死ね、後ろ宮クラウス。
食らいたまえ、ボクシング界最強の一撃を。
Having deflected Colossus' right straight, the goat's own right straight closed in on the right side of Colossus' face, which had been left open. But there, it crossed with the left straight from Colossus. The two punches cross, and time stopped as each aimed for the face of the other.
まさかこのタイミングで相打ちに持ってくるとは。しかし戦闘力は160倍止まりで960。うちの子の1000には及びませんでしたよ。
いや、ワルギリアさん、あんたの負けだ。
どうして？
あんた最初のクロスカウンターを弾かせちまった。確かにその次に繰り出した右ストレートが当たればクラウスさんは粉々にされていただろう。しかしそいつをクロスされてしまった。こりゃダメだ。悪いがあんたんとこのヤギさんの乾杯だよ。
A cross counter has 4 times the destructive power. This is common knowledge in boxing. And if that is deflected, and the right straight hits, then the double cross counter has 8 times the destructive power. This is also common knowledge in boxing. If that is crossed, by the principle of leverage, the triple cross then multiplies the destructive power by 12! This is also painfully common knowledge in the world of boxing.
クラウスさんの戦闘力は6。
双方2倍の踏み込みで4倍。
クリティカルヒットで8倍。
負けフラグの立てすぎで160倍。
そしてトリプルクロスカウンターでさらに12倍。
1920倍。
Colossus is a shonen protagonist, and you cannot deny it! Colossus is a fucking shonen protagonist! He is so a shonen protagonist, just winning a physical fight by just sheer luck! By sheer luck, he wins! He is so a shonen protagonist! A power level of 11,520! Colossus' punch now had the power to easily win that Budokai tournament. Yeah, okay. Colossus' punch now had the power to easily win that Budokai tournament. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try that one more time. Colossus' punch now had the power to easily win that Budokai tournament.
これは勝利を最後まで諦めなかったクラウスさんの執念とあんたの慢心が招いた結果だ。どちらが欠けてもこの威力にはならなかった。あんたよく戦ったよ。もう倒れてもいいんだぞ。
Najo patted the goat on the shoulder. During the middle of the fight, he's just like, here you go. Oni-chan gave it his all. As the sparkling drops from the goat's eyes scattered, he softly toppled backwards and flattened Virgilia like a pancake. The goat's massive body was too heavy for the slender Virgilia. She floundered around with it on top of her, but it didn't look like she would be able to escape. In that instant, the barrier of Virgilia had sealed broke. Run! Run!
悪く思うな。テコの原理を侮ったのが君の敗因だ。
どうしてあのカウンターでテコの原理が働くのかしらね。永遠の謎だわ。
今のうちに逃げましょう。ヤギさんもお大事に。
それでは失礼します、バルギリア様。
ペコリ。
待ちなさい。これどけて。ガブガブガブガブガブガブ。
There was nothing more to block their way. They ran through the underground passage with single-minded purpose. Damn, Klaus was a badass! Damn. Jessica had finally been cornered with the wall at her back. Renove's magic barrier was advancing bit by bit, and would probably crush her against the wall before long. Oh no, is this where everything goes wrong now? Is this where everything goes wrong now? Damn it, I knew this was gonna be most likely what's gonna happen, but I didn't want it to. Damn it! Why is this game 4? Why is this game 4 of 8? Man, this would have been a good finale. Well, 6 people are dead, so let's just continue on reading. Considering the distance, this would be the final strike, the final throw of her iron fist. Jessica had dealt out many punches so far. The wall wasn't invisible. It had already started to crack, and it wouldn't be strange for it to smash at any moment. However, due to the rebounding damage, Jessica herself was in very bad shape, with cuts all over her body.
もうおよしなさい。あなたを押しつぶすつもりはありません。あなたの処遇は親方様が決めますからね。しかし、ジェシカ様のナイスファイトは私からも特に申し上げるつもりですよ。
ふざけるんじゃねえぜ。まだ終わっちゃいねえぜ。
あなたは満身創痍。立っているのもやっとではありませんか。
My hand's throbbing right now. Sorry everyone, my hand's just throbbing a little bit. So if I look like I'm in pain, that's just because my hand's, just having a moment. Be careful with scooters, everyone.
あなたは最後の一撃に全ての力を込めるつもりでいるようだ。
And no, I'm not talking about electric scooters. Be careful with those too, but I'm talking about, the standing scooters that, you put your foot on and, you push with your leg. Yeah, those kind of scooters.
しかし、その最後の一撃はむしろあなたにとって命取りになりますよ。
The damage reflected by Renove's magic barrier was proportional to the strength of the attack. Jessica's all-out punch would be bounced back onto her. The more all-out she went, the more suicidal it would be for her.
分かってるぜ。そんなことはよ。
警告します。もうおやめなさい。それがあなたのためです。
強がるなよ。お前の壁がもう破れかかってるんだろ。殴ってきた私には手応えで分かってるんだぜ。
Hook, line, and sinker. That was a fact. Renove's wall was already on the verge of breaking. And on top of that, Jessica's fists had been imbued with an unimaginable magical attack power by now. And their destructive power defied their imagination. If she wasn't careful, that destructive power might pierce that defensive wall, smash Renove as well, and then go on to expand the size of her bedroom by connecting it to the room next door. However, that damage would rebound on Jessica as well. She wouldn't escape unharmed.
もう一度だけ言います。おやめなさい。あなたのためを思って言っています。
やかましいぜ。 よしやがれ
Jessica howled. Putting all her strength and her last and greatest destructive power into her fist, she roared! The three goats had been beaten down long ago. Without a single ragged breath, George cautiously closed the distance between him and Gaap. He was after her. He was planning on bringing her down with a single strike. Gaap was also aiming for a single strike. If she let that chance slide, this time, she would be killed.
落とし穴は使わないのかい
Even the tiny moment of weakness during the time it took to open the hole would prove fatal against George now. Gaap cautiously calculated the distance and timing, but even as she did, George closed the gap between them.
来ないなら行くよ
来なさいよ。今さら小細工も何もないわ。私のこの蹴りで決着。
Oops. The instant she noticed George's body blur, only his jacket was floating in the air. Dread of the grave, more fear. A short sound of realization entered her mind, and in that instant, darkness covered her. George, with his heel swung up high, looked as though a massive dragon attacking from the sky. Looked even like a dragon. Oops. Not as though I didn't even like. Yeah, I read that as though. Man, maybe I shouldn't pretend to be kicking with George. But it's so fun that I'm gonna be doing it. George, with his heel swung up high, looks like a massive dragon attacking from the sky.
かかったわね。
Uh-oh.
これで私の勝ちよ。
What?
後ろ。
Oh my god, I did it again! I'm sorry! I'm so sorry, I did it again! How did he lose? Gaap opened a vast pit with her in the center. It swallowed up George along with herself. The two were swallowed up by the pit and spat out from the ceiling of the arbor. But that was what Gaap had been after. So she alone landed lightly. But there was another pit in George's landing spot.
もらったわ。後ろ宮ジョージ。面白かったわよ。死になさい。あんたみたいな上等。後ろ宮家の当主なんてもったいないわ。今この場で私が食ってあげる。
George once again fell from the ceiling of the arbor. He had probably been dropped the same distance as falling off the roof of a two-story building. In midair, he couldn't control his posture in any way. It was impossible to resist or defend or avoid. As Gaap spun like a whirlwind, she concentrated all of her energy on the sharp tip of her stylo heel. This was the final strike to perform his requiem. The Queen Bee's final strike that would bore into heaven, knocking him down into the true abyss.
ようこそ奈落へ。ここがあんたの終着点よ。
Her prey captured in her sight. She launched her foot into the sky. It was then that she saw George's face. Even though he was in midair, he was calmly adjusting his glasses with his middle finger of his left hand. Oh shit. And his posture was still preserved as that of an axe kick. Aiming for Gaap's forehead without the faintest deviation.
君がその手に出ることは想定済みだったよ。僕が地上の君に飛びかかとを食らわせるために飛んでいたなら、僕の姿勢はとっくに崩れていただろうさ。しかし僕の姿勢はいささかも崩れない。なぜかわかるかい？僕は初めから2フロア下の君にかかとを食らわせるつもりで飛んでいる。
Oh no. George, did George just do a loser flag? Jessica's last and strongest upward punch reached the wall, and it was sucked in. What? Oh my god, did Gaap just transport Jessica's fist to George? It was sucked into the black, large hole that had suddenly opened on the wall. Oh my god, she's gonna hit George.
おやめなさいと忠告したのに。
She just hit George, didn't she? Happy Maria!
全然ピンチでもなんでもなかったの。ごめんなさいね。
Jessica's fist had gone for George's stomach, and George's axe kick had lined it up on Jessica's head. The shocking destructive power imbued in Jessica's fist crushed George's organs and scattered his abdomen. The equally as shocking destructive power in George's axe kick smashed half of Jessica's head and scattered its contents in the same manner.
だって魔女は演技力なんでしょ。ねえねえリーチェどうよ、見ててくれたかしら。
I knew she was gonna come into the comment as soon as she was mentioned.
やるな、筋書き通り。
Oh my god.
やっぱガープは分かってるじゃん。イエーイ。
Phantom and Gaap gave each other a light high five.
ありがとうロノウェイ。
So that's the only comment we get from Ballard this episode, I bet.
こっちで美味しくいただけた。ジェシカの死体はそっちに返すわ。二人で寄り添う死体を引き離す。これで第二の晩は出来上がり。
Oh my god. Gaap dropped Jessica's corpse into a pit and chucked all the chunks of meat too into Jessica's room, as carelessly as throwing them into the trash. Jessica's corpse and lumps of flesh fell from the ceiling and poured out all over her room. Ronobe shook his head slightly at this all too gruesome change.
申し訳ございませんね、ジェシカ様。ご忠告は申し上げたのですよ。もっともこの結末を予見し聞き入れないと分かっている忠告を重ねる悪魔の醍醐味は人間には分からないでしょうがね。
Wait a second. You can kind of hear suspicious scent in this. Yeah, if you listen closely to the background, like the bass is suspicious scent. Yeah, you can hear suspicious scent in here. Sorry, that was just a detail I noticed in the song. I'm sorry. Oh, that's cool. But that's actually really cool. You can kind of hear suspicious scent in the song.
本当に面白かったわ坊や。でもあんたちょっと言葉遊びが過ぎるわよ。そろそろ反撃してもいいかなが最高傑作。あなたどこかのラノベか何かにかぶれすぎよ。
in the arbor, beautifully decorated by George and Jessica's scattered blood and guts. Gaap enjoyed a loud laugh for a while. But she quickly realized that, in all seriousness, this was a little too filthy and undignified, and she snapped her fingers. She's just gonna kill him again, isn't she? As she did, gold butterflies rose up from the ground all around the garden. And stuck to... Oh, she's just removing the gore. As she did, gold butterflies rose up from the ground all around the rose garden. Stuck to each of the bits, and stained patches of blood, and got them out. Then, bit by bit, they slowly turned back into George's corpse. And the awful corpse, with its guts splattered out, was repaired into a clean corpse that looked like it was sleeping. Was this some kind of post-mortem sportsmanship towards a great opponent? The heavens were slowly split, because Gaap had lifted a leg high to the air, pointing at the sky.
じゃあね、色男。これが本当の。
Oh! Squish. Without a trace of mercy, that foot was brought down and buried into George's forehead. Her stiletto heel, sharp as a weapon, was impaled through George's forehead. She pulled it out with a boop. It was like a mark of proof that Gaap had indeed fished him by her own hand. Damn. Oh? Ronove returned Jessica's corpse to its original form as well. And unlike how it had been with George, he also restored Jessica's life.
違います。
Wacrium.
ジェシカ様は確かにお亡くなりになりました。最後の瞬間の記憶をよくご存知のはずだ。
It was burnt into the back of Jessica's mind. For some reason, she remembered being thrown somewhere, and that her head had been smashed by George's heel.
私は生きてるのか？
いいえ、死んでいます。私の魔法でほんの3分ほどそれを先送りにしているに過ぎません。3分が過ぎれば魔法が終わり、あなたは無残な頭部半壊の死体に戻ります。
I'm curious, why did Ronove do this?
だと
死は残酷です。多くの場合、心の整理さえ与えない。しかし私はここまで検討したあなたをたたえ、その時間を与えることにしました。その3分間でこの世の未練をよく整理されるといいでしょう。
その3分でお前を道連れにするという手もあるぜ。
But the power that had been burning inside Jessica's body was now completely lost. Jessica was aware of that herself. She was already dead.
それでは私はこれにて失礼いたします。
Man, you know, Ronove is probably one of the most polite demons. Like, he has respect for people.
楽しかったですよ、ジェシカ様。
Well, maybe because you can make parallels between Ronove and Genji, that's why he's so respectful towards, you know, everyone he fights. If you can make, yeah, you can make connections between them. And some of his lines do heavily imply that he sprouted from Genji, so maybe. Like, the same could be said about Virgilia, especially now that she made a macro reference. Kumasawa's favorite. Bye, Ronove. Ronove turned his form into a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. All that remained was the sound of the wind and rain, and the figure of Jessica, crouching down against the wall. Jessica realized, after 3 minutes, she probably really would revert to the corpse she had been. In those 3 minutes, was there anything she could do? She stood up, and with a shaky gait, took the phone that was on the desk. She called Bowler. She's calling Bowler.
もしもし、ジェシカか。ジェシカ、どうした？無事か？
やられしまったぜ。
大丈夫か？怪我をしてるのか？今助けに行く。
いや、もう遅いぜ。私さ、もう死んでるんだと。バトラーが来た時には私は頭を半分ぶちまけた死体だよ。
クソじじいめ。待てろ、今そこに行くからな。
聞けよバトラー。いいか、よく聞け。幸田さんたちがどうして食堂で6人が殺された時のこと、歯切れが悪いのかよく分かった。あいつらな、人間じゃねえんだぜ。
何を言ってんだ。
見ちまったんだ、仕方ねえだろ。あいつらさ、ワープしたりバリア張ったりやりたい放題だぜ。どこの漫画だよ、アニメだよ。いや、マジでかなわねえぜ。最初からさ、戦うとか無理なんだよ。バトラーが自慢してた棒仕掛けの槍程度でとてもどうにかなる相手じゃねえぜ。
A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's forehead.
ジョージ兄さんもダメだった。ありゃ、即死だ。次のテストはバトラだな。お前のテストも私たちと同じになるのかな。用心しろよ。そして間違えるな。
テストか？
違う。敵はどうせ人間だと間違えるなよ。敵は人間じゃない。恐ろしい魔法を自在に扱える悪魔なんだ。そこを絶対に間違えるんじゃねえぜ。用心しろよ。
A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's mouth as well. The left half of her head started hurting. Jessica realized that she was about to return to the corpse she had been.
13人死ねば黄金の魔女が蘇る。母さんたちが殺されて6人。これで第一の番。 そして私とジョージ兄さんが死んで第2の番、あと5人殺されれば儀式は完成で魔女が蘇るってわけだ。父さんたち無事だといいな。もし無事じゃなかったらお前をテストするのは復活したてのベアドリーチェ自身ってことになるかもしれねえぜ。
By now, Valor had no idea what Jessica was saying. But from her tone, he realized that she knew she was about to die. So even though he didn't understand the situation, he urged her to hang on in there.
私はもう死んでるんだって。じゃあな、もう時間みたいだ。テスト頑張れよ。お前が当主になれるといいな。
ジェシカ、おい、返事をしろ。ジェシカ
Valor's sorrowful voice could be heard from the dangling receiver. Crouching with her back against the adjacent wall, Jessica's head was half smashed.
ここ
Now it's time for the adults.
これは井戸なのか。ここはどこなんだ。
Oh? Kyrie stuck her face out of the well, and then Clash showed himself too. When he noticed that they could see the back of the mansion beyond a grove of trees, Clash realized more or less where they were. To think there had been a hidden underground passage and a well all the way out here, and that it led to a hidden mansion.
老体にはやはりこれは辛いですな。普段は別の場所からちゃんと階段で上がれるのです。鍵さえ開けば。
南條先生には後でいろいろとこの構造についてお教え願いたいものだ。シャノン、大丈夫かね。捕まりたまえ。
大丈夫です。カノン君、早く。
Ken was last, climbing up the ladder towards them in the shaft disguised as a well. It was probably quite deep. When he looked down for the first time, he realized how far he'd come up.
No!
God damn it! The Chesters are awake! Oh, fuck! Oh, wait, are they all... all 5 of them are gonna get killed. Wow, we are really speedrunning the Twilights, aren't we? We're really speedrunning them, aren't we? Watch coordinator. Bang! As Cannon was about to finally crawl out of the well, a hole the size of a basketball opened up in his chest. Everyone there looked through the hole in Cannon's chest to the scenery beyond. Cannon tumbled backwards and was swallowed up into the depths of the well.
シースト姉妹捕獲されてます。回避できない。走って一人でも生き残って。
Run! Yeah, run! At that time, Klaus, Kyrie, and Nanjo clearly saw a golden curve appear from the well and saw itself through the side of Shannon's head.
Shannon!
Head pierced. The 3 were perfect witnesses to everything. Up to and including the opposite side of her head being blasted away into pulp. Shannon fell to her knees blood gushing from both sides of her head, and flopped to the ground. Run!
私たちは狙われてる。走って、殺されるわよ。
走れ。
Nanjo had become paralyzed in fright by the manner of Shannon's death, and the Chiesa sisters would not miss their chance. A curve again appeared from the well, and pierced through Nanjo's forehead, and out the back of his head in an instant, sewing through him. Thump! And so Nanjo expired.
何なんだ、どうしてなんだ、敵はどこから。
狙撃されてるのよ。どこか知らないけど私たちを完全に捉えてる。屋敷へ逃げ込むのよ。視界を遮るのよ。
The two dashed into the back entrance of the mansion. Then, the instant Klaus tried to shut the door behind him. No! A golden curve appeared for the fourth time, piercing Klaus from the back of his head, out through his forehead, and smashing even his forehead to pieces. Klaus's body lurched forward and fell down hard, and drew a neat radial pattern with the insides of his head. Kyrie ran wildly through the hallway, flew into some room, and locked the door. But she couldn't imagine for a moment that this would save her life. She would probably die soon. This was apparently one of the guest rooms. At that moment, a phone on a side table caught Kyrie's eye. She's gonna call Battler, isn't she? After hanging up the call from Jessica, Battler was literally just about to dash out. In that instant, the phone rang again.
もしもし、キリエさん。
はい、バトラ君。
Eternity.
ラッキーだったわ。なんとか力を脱出できたの。本当についてた。
そこはどこだ。みんな無事なのかよ。こっちはジェシカとジョージの兄貴がどうやら。
聞いて。私の命は多分もう長くは持たないわ。
Then, right after she got the sudden feeling that the keyhole of the locked door might have glowed gold. A gold, curved line drawing in the helix. No, a golden sewing thread infiltrated the room through there at an incredible speed, and bore a hole into the floor by Kyrie's feet. Oh, that's rare. The enemy, who had sniped the other four one after another with extraordinary skill, apparently really does have trouble shooting me between the eyes. One second. The enemy, who had sniped the other four one after another with extraordinary skill, apparently really does have trouble shooting me between the eyes with a single shot while I'm holed up in this room. But the next strike will probably hit. At this point, Kyrie finally remembered the initial massacre in the dining hall. That's right. This is what killed Rudolph and the rest, all six of them.
聞いて、バトラ君。私が見たことをありのまま話す。バトラ君はきっと私の頭がどうにかなってしまったんだろうと思うに違いない。ええ、思ってくれていいわ。私だって何を見たのか未だに整理がつかない。今日バトラ君たちがゲストハウスに帰ってから食堂で親族会議が始まって、そして何が起こったかを全て話すわ。口を挟まないで最後まで聞いて。途中で急に電話が切れるかもしれない。そしたらその時は私が殺された時よ。
Then, Kyrie spoke about how Kinzo had come, the family conference had started, the 6 had been killed, and the 5 of them had been confined. About how she had escaped somehow, and made it to where she was now. And how everyone had finally been killed, all spoken dispassionately, as she had seen it. with no dramatization. Even she spoke about how everyone except her had been killed, and how she had observed the moments of all their deaths. And how, even this very moment, someone was trying to kill her.
実はこの話をしている間にももう3度攻撃を受けている。
Shit.
鍵穴からおかしな黄金の糸みたいなのが飛び込んできて、くるくる回りながら私を狙ってくるの。最初は足元、次は肩の近く、さっきのは耳をかすったわ。狙いがだんだん正確になってくる。そろそろ私の眉間にズドンと来そうで。
逃げろ、キリエさん、逃げてくれ。
どこへよ。私ここまで逃げ延びてきて部屋に閉じこもって鍵までかけてるのよ。それでもなお狙われてる私がどこに隠れるのよ。ねえ。ねえバトラ君、ジェシカちゃんとジョージ君まだ生きてる？
さっきジェシカから電話がなんかダメみたいだった。
やっぱり私たち5人が次々殺される時何か予感していたの。ひょっとして13人殺しの儀式は第2の番を終えて私たちの番にまで至ったのかなって。つまり私が死ねば13人。これで儀式は完成。黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェが復活する。一体どういうことになるのかしら。こんな悪魔だらけの魔女だらけ、ヤギの化け物がうじゃうじゃいるこの島に、さらにそいつらの親玉である黄金の魔女まで現れて、一体どうなっちゃうというのかしら。もう私には何が何だかわからない。
Kyrie-san's voice had given up completely on her own life. And because Balor could tell that, he couldn't stop the cheers.
一つだけ助言できることがあったわ。
何？
もしあなたの前に悪魔やら魔女が現れても、その正体を疑う必要は何もないわ。そういうものだと理解して。何か仕掛けがあるはずだとか、正体があるはずだとか。
Kyrie accepted magic. All there's left is Balor. All there is left is Balor. Kyrie is accepting magic with this statement. Holy shit. Wow. Yeah, episode 4 I think is gonna totally break Balor by the end of it. I mean, it's already broken me quite enough, so it's about time for Balor's turn for the mind break.
そんなことを考える余裕があったら、相手の機嫌を損ねないことを考えた方がよっぽどに建設的。間違ってもなら魔法を見せてみろなんて言っちゃダメよ。その証拠を彼らはこの上なく残酷な方法で見せるでしょうから。
Is she calling him out for the past 3 games? while also accepting that magic exists? Huh.
信じらんねえよ。キレさんの口からそんなこと言われるなんて信じらんねえよ。
分かってる。信じられない。だからそれこそが私にできる助言。信じて。
ペアとリーチェと
Something just fell.
とマルと化け物どもを信じろと。
Should I be concerned about that? Something just fell. I'll check it out. I'll check it out once I'm done recording. Oh jeez, I've been recording for 4 hours? Okay, this gotta be almost the end of this chapter. This gotta be almost the end of this chapter, so I'll check out whatever fell as soon as this chapter's over.
私たちは多分あれほどまでにこの世ならざるものをありありと見せつけられても多分何も信じることができなかったと思うの。今の私もそう。さっきから襲ってきて私の額を打ち抜こうとする者の正体さえ私には理解できず信じられない。だからあなただけは信じ理解して私たちに受け止めきれなかった存在を受け止めてほしいの。そうしてくれたなら私たちの死は無駄にならない。私もこうして電話をした甲斐があったというものだわ。
キリさん、
まだ大丈夫よ。かすったけどまた外したわ。さすがに今度はもうダメかもね。ありがとう。そしてさよならバトラ君。あなたのことアスムさんの息子だからと冷たくしたこともあった。その日のことを許して。
許すも何も、今はキリエさんが俺にとっての母親だろうが。
Oh, that's so fucking cruel. That is cruel. I felt as though I heard an incredible sound at the other end of the receiver. And then, a noisy clattering sound. As though the receiver had fallen to the floor.
キリエさん、キリエさん、
Whoa! Kyrie-san never responded through the phone again. Umineko no Nakukora ni Rondo of the Witch and Reasoning. Oh, fuck. That was only 30 minutes? All that happened in 30 minutes caused the tragedy. That's the next chapter.
どうしてバトラが怒ってるのかわかんないよ。
We're gonna get to you next episode.
Okay.